Howdy there, partners. Welcome to T-Mobile's Plat Chat, episode 54 here.
Oh. What happened to Bren?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, you tricked me.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm in the middle of adjusting my sleep schedule.
Oh yeah,
and
I feel so shit.
Yeah, we're recording this pretty late. I've been waking up. I've been trying to wake up later and later and later because of the grand finals weekend and everything else. What time did you lot wake up today?
3:30 p.m. I got up at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Yeah. I went to bed. At 3:30 and I got up at 8.
Oh, that's brutal, man.
Oh my god! What?
Imagine being so old.
Yeah, that you just can't sleep anymore.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. There was a time in the middle of the night where Hugo was barking. I was like, "What is he barking at?" Like, he's just barking. And like, you know, when you like wake up and you're like kind of scared that there could be somebody in your like apartment, but you're not really sure.
Yeah.
No.
Have you ever get that, Bren? No. You do. Yeah. Me and Bren have the same nervous type energy. And I was looking around everywhere. I couldn't find anybody. I just saw Hugo. He was just laying in the living room after barking, just eating his chew. And then I woke up in the morning and I saw throw up in about the same spot that I saw him hanging out in. So I knew it wasn't my throw up. It wasn't Chelsea, so it had to be him.
Wait, is this a T-Mobile story somehow, or what?
No, that was just an actual story.
Just a genuine story from his life.
Right. Yeah.
But then I used my T-Mobile 5G to call up my dog. And he was like, yo, it was me. It's like, my bad.
Yeah.
I've noticed trying to stay up this late and then reset my sleep schedule. My body like thinks waking up late is a bug now. It's like, why would you wake up later than 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. And it just forces me to wake up.
Wait, you say your body thinks it's a bug?
Yeah. Like,
are you referring to yourself as like a computer?
Yes.
Who does that?
I am.
That's creepy.
We're all living in a simulation anyway, Matt, so who cares?
True.
I've been trying to wake up later and later and later, but the way the light shines into my room, it just shines directly onto my face. So I kind of have to suffocate myself overnight with a pillow so that I don't see it.
You could just buy some blackout blinds.
A bit too late for that, you know. Like, we've got like what, 2 more days of adjusting sleep before.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, it's way too late for that.
You're not gonna keep that sleep schedule for forever?
What do you mean? Why would I keep it forever?
Absolute degen sleep schedule for the off season.
Tell you what, though,
with everybody else.
The sleep schedule, though. I tell you what, though, it did come in handy just this once. In fact, last night. Because do you remember a couple of weeks ago when I told you that story about how that bloke broke into my house and said you need to play Mozart's Fifth?
Oh, the piano.
Oh, yeah.
Piano. Shit. The burglar. Well, the burglar returned because he thought I was going to be asleep, but joke's on him, I was streaming until 7 a.m. So I was up. He thought nobody was in the house again. But this time he came with it was really strange, actually. He didn't even come to rob me. He just came with a whiteboard and a bunch of lead sheets. And what he had done was he had come to our house at the early hours of the morning, put lead sheets around at various locations around the house.
Yeah.
And do you know, I mean, he thought to himself, right? He was like thinking, I finally got him. I cut the internet cables. The lead sheets will block the connection and signal. And I finally got him. And so what happened was he sat me down and he said, listen, got a little quiz for you. If you succeed, I'm not going to rob your house.
You have a lot of info on this guy. The fact that you sat down face to face with him.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was awake and I was downstairs. I was making a cup of tea. I'm trying to stay awake, trying to shift my sleep schedule. Keep up, Matt.
You didn't hear him put the lead sheets up all over the outside of the house.
No, he did it with that tape. You know, that tape they use.
Oh, he taped lead sheets to the house. That does make sense.
It was the lead sheet tape, the special lead sheet tape that works. Anyway, sat me down and he started showing me various pictures of wood, different cross sections of trees, and he started to say, "I've heard about your geoguessr knowledge." And I was like, "Well, how did you hear about this?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. I've heard about your geoguessr knowledge. I'm not asking you about red clay anymore. I'm not asking you to play Mozart's Fifth. This time, I want you to tell me where these trees are in the world." I was like, "Well, how am I supposed to get this?" And he's like,
"Who knows that?
Who knows about the cross-section of trees? I certainly don't, but I know what does."
I didn't even know there were different types of trees.
I'll tell you what does. I'll tell you what does know about the different cross-section of trees. Right now, right here, he thought that the fucking lead sheets were enough to keep out the power of 5G's T-Mobile connection. Well, joke's on you, Mr. Burglar. Fuck you.
Burglar.
Get out of here, burglar. You can't stop the train that is T-Mobile 5G connection, because guess what? With 5G coverage in all 50 states, T-Mobile has America's largest 5G network. And it's 5G that covers more people in more places than anywhere else.
True.
And even better, no other 5G signal goes farther to bring you closer to the Overwatch League and keep you connected to the game. So rank up and take your wireless game to the next level with T-Mobile, and visit T-Mobile.com today. Right now.
Yeah.
Today. Right now. And you can be like me. Doesn't matter. Listen, part of the reason why is as well, I'm just going to put in for legal reasons. I do think lead sheets may block 5G signal, but the guy just did a really shoddy job of installing them. So that's probably how I got through.
Very powerful signal.
With that being said,
decisive.
it did save my life in another circumstance, and we can go on another day knowing that my Magic the Gathering collection is safe, because let's be honest, that's probably what he was there for.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm so glad you're safe, Bren. I don't know what we would have done without you and your incredible stories, absolutely factual stories about your life.
We can hear so many other people's stories now.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. We've got this giveaway going on. And, of course, when this is posted, the people watching will probably have a couple of hours once this goes live, this video.
Yeah.
So they've got until 6 p.m. Pacific time. If you're in the U.S., all 50 states, and also, I think, in where else is it? I don't know. There's some legal terms that you can find out on the actual tweets as well that we put out and on the giveaway video itself. But you've got a bit of time, and we've been getting in your responses of how T-Mobile has affected your life in a positive way.
There are some interesting ones.
Yeah.
I love the way that you pronounce T-Mobile.
I love this one. I liked this one.
T-Mobile.
It's an accent. Yeah, it's definitely T-Mobile.
That's really not how it's pronounced at all.
This one I liked. I thought this one was great. I was in a brutal hurricane on a sandy beach of Texas when a giant wave hit me. I was about to drown when suddenly I realized I cannot drown. I have T-Mobile's 5G network. I then began to ascend out of the water and was put onto the safety of a land where I started watching Netflix. Since T-Mobile has the largest 5G network while other competitors only last city blocks.
It's true.
Thank you, T-Mobile.
Actually,
true. T-Mobile, he ascended out of the water. Just like this, just like all the way up into the sky.
Don't try and replicate it, but yeah, almost certainly a true story.
Yeah.
About like 85% true, I would say.
You got any other stories that we've been liking? My fiance and I went to the first Dallas homestand, and there was a T-Mobile booth. T-Mobile. What? You don't like me saying mobile?
You say it like I don't know how you say it so wrong. It's T-Mobile.
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 Yeah, but British people say mobile.
Oh, no, you sound get it away from your brain.
You're talking about a movable dispenser for tea. Like T-Mobile.
Anyway, the T-Mobile booth giving away swag. We switched over carriers that weekend and have been happy with T-Mobile. Been happy T-Mobile mobile members since. I also got our merch. I also got our merch bucks from T-Mobile Tuesdays. Why is there just
another tweet underneath it that says obese hamster?
Wait, what?
There was another. Wait, what?
The screen, it just says obese hamster sideshow underneath it. They're calling me an obese hamster. What's happening here?
I think that was regards to Wrecking Ball and Tiny Overwatch.
Oh, is that a quote from Agastin?
It has to be, yeah.
Hey, I mean, were you in a
very luscious curves.
fever dream state when you were casting Tiny Overwatch?
Do we have some other ones, Kurt? Oh, what is this one?
Go on, Matt.
I was swimming at a nearby beach and having a grand old time with my pals. Sadly, we were swept up by a monster riptide and were cast miles away at sea. With no understanding of the ocean, we panicked, but luckily, I had T-Mobile 5G internet that stretched deep into the ocean and past city blocks. I was able to rewatch the Plat chat episode in which reinforced me how to serve, and I made it back to the shore just to wallow my misery that I'm still an Uprising fan. There's a lot of ups and downs in that one.
Amazing.
A lot of ups and downs.
That had everything. That was like Shakespeare. That was beautiful.
Oh, man. The tweets and the stories have just been They've just been legendary. It's awesome
amazing the lives. It's amazing the like rich, diverse experiences Plat Chat fans go through on a day-to-day basis. I can't believe the kind of things that some of these people have done. I feel like I'm living a very boring life. I haven't done that much recently, and I read about all of our fans, getting lost in the ocean, going to space, all over the place.
Here's one I can read out. Here's another one. I was driving through rural Indiana on the way to a wedding I was supposed to officiate. When I let the paper map I was navigating with slip out of my hands and through the window into the cornfields.
No.
Oh, no.
Thankfully, with T-Mobile's 5G network, I was able to look up the location of the wedding venue and reach it just in the nick of time to marry 2 lads who had requested my service.
Yes!
I don't know why, but the verb to marry being used in that way, I just found it very funny. Like they had found their way there in order to get married to 2 young blokes for their service.
Dude,
let's see. I can find one more. Let me find one more.
At this point, I mean, it's remained a mystery for.
It's actually going to be so hard to pick like a winner.
Been like Moses was probably like partying the sea with the help of T-Mobile at this point.
Probably.
Like, that's the only explainable way, really.
It's probably. Yeah.
You want to read one more, Matt?
There's some ones that deserve it. There's one.
Go on, read one more, and we're gonna start the show.
I didn't know the difference between cream cheese and butter. I ate a whole tub of cream cheese. The internet died, and I couldn't contact a doctor, so switched. And haven't eaten cream cheese since. True story, by the way.
That's not a story about T-Mobile.
He didn't finish the story. Like,
is he saying that because he didn't have T-Mobile, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't try and make sense of it. It's the ravings of a lunatic.
The delusions of
the show. We've got Overwatch to talk about.
I think that one to read.
All right, the delusions of a cheese-eating nutcase. Go on, then. Let's recap All Stars. The All Star recap here for part 1, because obviously the All Stars event. We're gonna brush through this at a reasonable pace here, starting with Linkzr and Diem winning the Widowmaker 1v1 challenges. A lot of prize money on the line for this one. Congratulations!
Prize money went back after this one.
Well, actually, did it?
No, I don't know.
I mean,
because John Spector responded to Linkzr's tweet where Linkzr was apologizing for swearing multiple times. And he said, enjoy the 15K, which kind of implies that, he's not going to get fined,
Maybe it means enjoy that $15,000. We'll need some of your savings.
Yeah. But this money clears. We'll take some of your money from here.
What did you guys think of the Widowmaker 1v1s this year? Because I know the APAC one had a bit of issues because of the rule set, but they reduced the amount of crouching. They added a control point in the center for the. I think the NA ones they added a control point.
They fixed it for North America. Yeah. I mean, if you stayed up and watched the APAC one, it was painful, but they did definitely fix it for NA.
I like the end of the Widowmaker, like 1v1. Like I always think like the endings are exciting, especially like this one between Linkzr and Suit.
Yeah, this was
rounds.
The most insane Widowmaker 1v1 finals that we've had in a long time.
What if they did what if they just put eight players in a lobby, like a Widowmaker headshot lobby, and the top 4 go to the semis?
I think
and then you have 1 play 4 and then 2 play 3.
People would just camp sidelines.
I don't mind that though. Like I think that's
I think it's a faster way and probably more fun with more kills to get rid of half of the people.
It's kind of poopy to spectate though, because every time you go to someone's POV, they're gonna die. Like, the chances of being able to actually find kills are so unlikely. I thought it was
streaks, right?
Yeah, exactly. That like, how do you predict that? It's crazy to me that we had the old guard make it to the top of North America.
Yeah.
Like Linkzr and Soon making it to the finals. Well,
who would you
Soon beating KSP. KSP, I thought was like a slam dunk to make it to the finals.
Yeah.
And Soon brutalized him. He hit some nasty good shots.
Well, it's a different style of gameplay, right? With Widowmaker, you're relying on your team. I mean, I'm not gonna analyze this too much because it is a Widowmaker 1v1, but
I think you've lost the rights to analyze it as well.
A lot of what this comes down to is just knowledge of the map, right? Of angles, of exposing yourself and where they
This round lasted longer than the Widowmaker 1v1.
Bro, that 1v1, I don't know. I gotta stop talking to the higher ups of the Overwatch League. I'm just gonna start ignoring their emails. If they ask me to 1v1 anyone else, I'm saying sorry. The Brodermaker's out.
So me and Sully got the responsibility, I guess, to cast the Widowmaker 1v1.
Yeah,
it took longer to set
nice
up
quick for you.
It took longer to set up the gear and get in the call and get everything together than the actual thing was.
Yeah.
We were like, all right, let's get in the game. All right, so that's it.
At least like Baby Bay last year was like kind of having fun with it, and like making a show of it.
Well, that's because
just dunked.
I went up against, because I mean, Baby Bay wasn't warmed up last year, and obviously beforehand, me and Baby Bay spoke to each other and we were like, okay, let's play it up a little bit for the camera. We'll do a bit of 1v1s, we'll make it back and forth.
And then Gestures played Widowmaker once, so
yeah, I mean, Gesture's a main tank player, right? And he still beat me. But the point is, this was Linkzr coming in after he had just warmed up against the best hit scam players in North America.
He won 15K.
I want
just warmed up.
We need
like an hour.
We need a Plat Chat pay-per-view special event, a 1v1 of the ages.
Okay.
Widowmaker versus the Eggman.
Go full UFC.
Pay-per-view.
I've already done that, by the way. And the Eggman won
versus Widowmaker.
You want to do boxing?
In a widow, in a boxing match.
Yeah, you should do. I read a Wikipedia article. There's chess boxing, which is like every other round you play chess or boxing, right? And you take turns.
Yeah. Yes.
You should just do Overwatch boxing. So every other round you just play box each other, and then you go and play Widowmaker 1-on-1s.
Overwatch chess boxing.
Yeah. No, you guys should just do a Widow 1v1, and after every kill, the loser has to do like, I don't know, 20 push-ups. I think Josh, if he lost one round, would just be dead.
Yeah, I would. I'd have to cut the Pringles.
He would just have Pringles wavy just seeping out of his body.
I cannot believe
you're
that this
build
was
muscles with the Pringles.
I can't believe this was the 1v1. Yeah.
This was every single round.
So explain to me what happened here. So what happened? So what was the different rules?
There's no capture point, right? So there's no reason for them to come to each other, but also they see each other. So you can't be aggressive because they know where you're coming from. You can't try and take sneaky angles because they always know where you are. So it actually makes the play even slower. And because you can't get in each other's face and crouch either, you can't dodge. So you can't dodge. They can see you through walls, and there's no capture point to drag the players together. So it was just a cacophony of terrible circumstances that led to this.
How long did this go for?
Oh, the tournament was 2.5 hours. The final was half an hour. 30-minute Widowmaker 1v1.
And you wanted the 15K, right? So obviously you're going to just play it slow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, though.
I'll tell
you the main reason why I ended up losing the Widowmaker 1v1 against Linkzr.
Why?
I was putting all my energy into trying to boom Johnny on Reinhardt.
Yeah.
The talent Takedown.
Yeah, but you did
the Reinhardt, dude.
Before we move on, though, can we find the footage of Bren
going to get me tilted, and then we move on to some other shit?
Like, can we find the footage of what?
No. We definitely need to talk about the talent takedown. But I want to give you a favor here, Johnny. I want to let you watch Bren get 360 headshot.
I don't want to watch this shit.
No, I definitely think we need to watch that because it is just. I mean, it was atrocious. You didn't hit him for a single point of damage.
Yeah, I know.
Plat Chat 30 for 30 documentary on the rise and the fall of the Widowmaker.
I know I didn't hit him for a single point of damage. We don't need to watch that.
Dude, me and Sally, I was like, hold on, I'll find it.
Not one single point of damage.
Yeah, we don't need to watch it.
We definitely do. At least the final kill.
I mean, if you watch that, I'm gonna go make some food in the kitchen.
I love how it's
the photo as well.
The title is Linkzr vs Final Boss Widowmaker. The video's 2 minutes and 28 seconds.
Oh, that is a nasty good 360.
I mean
that was 10 seconds right there.
He is just. Here's the thing. I don't want to do another 1v1 unless it's well thought out. You know what I mean?
How is that not well thought out? The guy won the Widowmaker 1v1 and then you came in and challenged him.
They didn't have my cam. They just had a picture of me from 2018.
So wait, you lost because they didn't have your cam?
In fact, that picture was from 2017.
True. So they lost. So you lost because the picture was bad.
Well, and also, but it's just none of it was ran very well. You know what I mean? Like There was no.
You sound like the classic salty Call of Duty player where they're like, the servers don't work. The servers were working fine.
The servers were working fine. I was outskilled. But the point of the 1v1s is to like, it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be a skit. It's supposed to be a bit.
I found that funny.
So call out somebody. Somebody you think you can beat.
Now here's the thing, Matt. I've retired the Widowmaker character.
Okay.
It's gone now. I'm retiring it. I should have retired it last year. This year I got a call from a bunch of people.
But when you retire, you want to go out swinging. You know, you want to put together a good final performance for people. Do you want people to remember the Widowmaker for that shit show?
Yeah.
All right.
What's
Dude,
next?
I don't care. Listen, I'm making new characters every day.
What's the next challenge then?
The next challenge?
Yeah.
The Brian Heart, of course. After my dominant performance in the talent takedown, which we're going to be moving on to right now.
A Reinhardt versus Reinforced.
My dominant performance in the talent takedown over Johnny.
How? No, this is a false narrative bullshit. The fact that Bren outplayed me on Reinhardt. Okay, it was no main tank difference whatsoever. Okay, the only reason why people think it's MTD was because Avast and Dogman were pushing that narrative in just things that didn't make sense whatsoever. I'm actually molding because when we analyze this VOD, we'll see how clearly there was no MTD on Rialto.
I've also got a bone to pick with Avast and Dogman for spreading false narratives as they just peddled the Sideshow feeding over and over again, despite me having the least deaths in the entire server. Literally the least deaths. Yes, the least deaths in the whole server.
But you did.
Everyone's just spamming Sideshow feeding.
You did jump off the map with your Primal Rage twice.
Yes, okay. A quarter of my deaths were environmental deaths. But I didn't die that often.
I do feel like this game... Like, okay, so Jake makes any of these games very difficult to balance, considering, you know, Scott plays Hades most of the time.
Here we go. The excuses from Morello.
I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying, I thought this was pretty competitive for the way the teams were.
Yes. You know why?
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
Because we locked down... we kind of nerfed the DPS position by essentially locking in specific DPS.
If Jake couldn't play DPS, we would have rolled you.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
You're two former pros.
I'm saying I was gonna say if all the pros had to like off roll, we probably
I think that would have been better, honestly. I think if me and Costa played DPS and Jake played like tank and Jaws played.
I don't.
I mean, you would
have. Hold on. Don't ever kind of lump Jaws in with you. I mean, maybe you, but like with Scott and Jake. But I said pros, right? There's a difference between, you know, fish tank.
Have some respect for yourself, Jonathan. Yeah. You are not on the same level as Jaws.
Hype yourself up a little bit. I mean, come on.
But
I mean, I was owning on Lijiang Tower.
I will say this.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah. I will say this. We made those teams. We balanced them out. We thought they were balanced reasonably. I think we did do a very good job of balancing them. The only reason our team won is because we scrimmed about 20 hours of goats.
Yeah.
Genuinely, yes.
Yeah.
I was dominant in that goats.
I
scrimmed a little bit.
Diva, I gobbled Matt's grav like a
because
like
if you think about it,
little nut.
Yeah,
I didn't get to play the game in map 3.
Yeah, you really didn't.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the whole reason that we didn't 3-0 you guys as well, I can't believe I've forgotten about this, is because Matthew told us the wrong map. We had scrimmed like 8 hours of Ilios because Matt told us it was Ilios.
We had been scrimming
so much.
I definitely said Lijiang Tower.
We came into the match.
It was a test of flexibility. It was a test of adaptability and being ready on the fly. And clearly, we were able to go on the fly.
When everything was even, we dominated.
I bet you had been all on alt accounts scrimming on Lijiang Tower. You guys looked like a well-oiled machine on that map compared to everything else because you'd sold us some false info.
We have no idea if ZP played out outside of our scrims whatsoever. The Zucchini Panini just he's down there in the depths. I think
I mean, he didn't show up, did he? Though as well.
He played all right, I think.
I mean,
are we going to talk about underperformers in the talent takedown?
Yeah, he just didn't show up, did he? Because here's the thing, like, Johnny, as much as you want to admit that it's not the main tank difference, it was, you know? Because I put the fear of God into you.
I think Johnny was a little shook. Johnny was a little shook.
Johnny, I think I put the fear of God into you.
You're speculating about my mental game.
No. It's not about your mental game. I could tell the way you were playing that you didn't want to take any risk with shatters. You were only shattering once the bomb was laid down or the shield was broken.
I saw him go for a pretty nice flank shatter, actually.
I actually did.
He tried like
but my fucking ginormous brain always had the outplay.
What was the outplay?
I would save my shadow. If you went for a flank shadow, I would shadow your entire team, so I couldn't follow up.
We should maybe try and run. We should maybe try and run this back, and maybe let. I was trying to think of like some way we can.
I don't understand. Matt can even correct this word. I don't understand how you guys want me to just go like balls to the wall, super aggressive playmaking when we have a Moira on high ping and 80 FPS, and I don't have the same resources as like fucking Bumper on the Vancouver Titans. So without the resources, I can't just go out there and just.
I think that's what you need to do.
Just make plays though. Yeah.
In the Takedown, I think that's what you needed to do because you and Custer were the strongest player. Custer was getting a fuck ton of value.
Because I was on the walls, dude. He was like a frog stuck to buildings, just leaping all over the place. I'm sorry. You guys told me before the start of this show that I couldn't mold because due to certain things, I cannot use the same microphone this week, which probably is noticeable. I'm hesitant to raise my voice here. I find this very disturbing.
Well, I mean, Bren's got a bit of a point. I felt
no. You're trying to offload. Look, hold on. You're trying to offload the responsibility of your poor shit gameplay to me.
You didn't even let me explain. You didn't even let me explain.
You're putting the responsibility of the loss to me.
No, I didn't.
How dare you?
No, I didn't.
You're blaming it on me.
I was not gonna blame you. I was gonna blame you and Scott. I was not gonna blame just you. I was gonna blame Scott as well. You didn't even let me finish. Look, our two players.
Gameplay, like he
was tragic.
He was asking me to play Genji the day before the show match.
I shouldn't be playing Genji. Why? When has anyone ever seen me play Genji? And then one day it was like, yo, you should just play Genji.
Isn't that the only kind of heroes that you've got into Masters with? Were Genji Tracer?
Yeah.
Yes.
But outside of that, though.
Okay. They were correct on Reddit.
My point was
on Reddit because they said like, oh, it's just a bunch of tilters on custom.
Jake was very like,
just blowing my brains out.
Jake's watching VODs, bro. I bet you when Jake would go down for breakfast, dude, he would leave little notes for Bren and Jaws and what they.
I'm not gonna lie, we had discussions. We had like hour-long discussions in our kitchen.
And all me and Scott talked about was WoW. And then Johnny, he was nowhere to be found.
Okay, so basically you guys are just saying you didn't prep effectively, you didn't communicate effectively, you didn't select roles effectively, you didn't have teamwork, and you didn't try as hard.
We had a lot of fun though, I think.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did.
Everybody.
I kind of think we might have. I don't know.
We did have fun. Yeah.
I can't determine if we did or not.
I think production had to mute Hex's mic in between the rounds.
No. Look, what is this? Is another false narrative.
You know what? I'll say this.
Look at this team.
We weren't.
You're telling me that's a team that was having fun? Johnny, you're the only one smiling.
Even when I was losing.
I have a resting bitch face.
No, Johnny, you're the only one smiling.
Yeah. Frankie's got a bit of a smile there, twitch of the lips.
Yeah.
When I was losing, I was still talking trash. That's why I think like everybody like, look, you gotta learn this. You can't talk trash only when you win. You have to start talking trash, and even when you lose, and look, I knew we were gonna lose. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep talking trash to Jake. I was like, I'm just gonna keep going. Why not? And then that's when before that third map, I put in the chat. I said, I was like, oh, is this the best team that Jake's ever played on?
Did Custer become like the team leader for your team at all? Was he putting in the...
No, there was one point where they gotta listen in on us, and Frankie was like, what do we need to do here? And I was like, win. And then she's like, nice, thanks for the input. And I was like, no, we'll just listen to Scott. And then nobody said a word for like 20 seconds. Nobody said a thing.
Yeah. Why was that the attitude? Why was that the kind of...
I don't know.
The environment.
We had a lot of new people to Talent Takedown, right? Frankie, she got thrown into it late, but Frankie was she was good. She was good Moira. She was making some plays. She was changes. Yeah, PMA. I think what you there before. I think we had 3 new people to the event, right? Johnny's never played in the talent takedown. Oh no, he played.
Oh
in the
yeah, I
first
did
one,
boot
right?
you in season 1, mind you.
Oh no, that's why I killed you on the. That's why you didn't want to play DPS in this one, because I boomed you on DPS in the first one.
You
So you're trying to hide yourself.
You're talking out of your ass so fucking much, dude.
It's true. You can go watch the video. There's videos everywhere.
Yeah, I encourage
There's videos everywhere.
I can't believe the amount of shit I'm hearing.
I thought this segment would be me and Bren gloating at Matt and Johnny, and instead me and Bren have been silent in the middle, and you two have just been mad at each other.
No, but like I wouldn't even have minded this either. Like I would have taken the gloat. I would have accepted it. You know, you could have talked about how much you prepared and how much you dedicated your life to this one.
Honestly, I think if we ran it back,
Matt's just been complaining for 15 minutes and trying to put his responsibility to me and Costa. It's like, reinforcing Costa, they should have carried. Like, how did they win this
I never
game?
said that. I never said that.
Without me, you wouldn't even have won a map because I carried Lijiang Tower. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like, how
honestly,
do you have this little IQ? I don't understand.
After losing the first 2 maps, it didn't really matter. We won the 3rd map, but like I think you ran it back. Now everyone on our team was a little bit more serious. I think we probably win.
No, I absolutely don't think so. I would like as well to just kind of draw some attention to Mr. X's KD over the course of
it's tragic.
The match.
Here we go. Here's the statistical evidence.
Yeah, statistical analysis here showcases that Custer and Reinforce incredibly good on Lijiang Tower. Both went 12 and 4, a KD of 3. Mr. X on the map that they win goes 4 and 9. And on the other 2 maps, on Rialto playing Goats, playing Zarya, 3 and 10. And on King's Row playing Genji, we've got an 11 and 17.
That's not bad.
Those are some rough numbers you're putting up over there, Matthew.
Those are some rough numbers.
This is all. If you're watching this episode, guys, this is all fake. These numbers aren't real.
Nice, yes. Politics.
We can move on from Talent Takedown. It's clearly
this Backpack Matt guy works for Sideshow. This is still a bunch of fake stuff.
This is still a fresh wound, obviously.
Don't believe it. Don't believe it.
You also really have to think that there are different ways to approach teamwork and team chemistry. Not every competitive team has to be like Michael Jordan-esque, where like people just give themselves shitty comments about how they're horrible people and shit, but they motivate each other. Sure. It's like you can have a nice, comfortable team environment, not put too much pressure on everybody, put them in their comfort zone, be relaxed, chill, have a good time.
Is that what you've done with your teams?
We did that. I think we did that. I had a good time. We all had a good time. It was competitive. It was close.
We were Team Sweden.
The pressure was on Team Jake's to win.
True.
Because they had Jake.
Was it?
So yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure on Jake.
You guys had a 4600 DPS player. How
if they're playing against Jake, I have zero idea why he's a talent and why he's not just raking in just.
There's literally been Overwatch League coaches who's been saying that Jake should have been a player this year because the hero pool would have been right up his alley, and he's still good enough to play.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, me and Costa, we're like parsing and like wow and shit.
Yeah,
it's
good
like
points.
There's a clear difference.
All right, let's talk on one of the most important segments that occurred over the course of the All-Stars weekend, and that was, of course, Tiny Overwatch. This game mode.
I thought you were going to talk about the Winston thing with the wrecking ball. We didn't talk about that.
Shut up, Matt. Never going to talk about that ever again.
Shut up, Matt.
This Tiny Overwatch, this has got potential. This was funny for the first 10 minutes, and after that, I just felt sorry for Johnny and Josh.
It was absolutely insanity, but it was the only workshop mode that I've seen. Like every other year when we've had people play Mystery Heroes, I have found it very boring, like incredibly dull. Sorry, but this game mode was the only fun game mode where I've seen the players like really try
like a meta.
And there was like, it wasn't just because there was money on the line. If there was money on the line and it was Mystery Heroes, it still would have been dumb. But here there was money on the line and it was like possible for your team to be able to win. And I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious.
It wasn't based on RNG.
There was one Lijiang Tower where I thought we were never going to see it end.
Yeah.
I thought it was 30 minutes
for the first draw. Gardens. It was like unreal. It was like an 8-minute overtime on Guardians.
It was like watching, you know, when they, us in, on the Overwatch League, no, but you know when they get the medium bots to play against each other in a game just to test the setup. That's what it felt like. It just felt like the two teams of medium bots. Obviously not the gameplay wise, but just a never-ending game.
This is great.
There's just so much stupid stuff that you can do as well.
Yeah.
I wish Overwatch had better bots. In Black Ops 3, Courage. Courage, one of the first things he was doing on Twitch is we had the Call of Duty World League, and he started the Bot World League, and he would cast bot games.
Oh yeah, that's been in CS:GO as well.
Yeah. Oh, it was so funny because they just do so many dumb things. This was ridiculous. This would be like we should do like a tiny Overwatch league and just. I mean, we could probably get through one match a night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for one map a year. You know,
yeah, we should do it best of one.
It was fun.
Best of one.
Yeah,
it was very fun, but it was like the nature of it when it just got so serious and so stally. It was just insanity.
Yeah,
I mean, and quite exhausting to watch, in my opinion.
I feel like All Stars overall, though, was just way more. I would say it was fun in the past, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily like super engaging at times. Like I feel like this year, though, it was like really good from start to finish. Like everything was pretty good for NA.
Yeah, for NA for sure. I mean, there were some game modes over in APAC that were being tested out for the first time that didn't really work very well, and obviously the Widowmaker thing that had to be adjusted. But yeah, the North American portion of it worked pretty seamlessly. Like it was pretty fun, and I think that amount of money being on the line led to situations where the players were actually trying, and it led to some like, competitive all-star games.
I've always wanted them to do just one big, like, get rid of the Widowmaker thing, get rid of the all-star game, get rid of the talent takedown, put like the talent, a bunch of players and a bunch of influencers in like a group, and break up into like 8 teams and do some massive like kind of all-star celebrity tournament.
We did have that thing early on last
What'd you say, Ben?
In the preseason thing. But
yeah.
I'm not allowed to speak.
No, Johnny's allowed to talk.
Matt's determined to shut down the opposition after the talent takedown portion.
Yeah, I'm done with that guy.
Oh, we had didn't like last preseason, we had like influencers and like personalities join up and mix teams and stuff.
Yeah, it was like we had Fran.
I wasn't there for that. I wasn't in the country. Wasn't allowed in yet.
Yeah, you weren't there. Were you there, Josh?
No,
I wasn't there.
I was in Korea. I think.
Yeah.
I was stuck in the UK.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I was when Bren was sorting out his visa in Korea on the floor from bar just being drunk.
Bro, Korea was so good, man. I was genuinely considering, right? You know, we had the 3 weeks in between now and the grand finals weekend.
Yeah.
Flight was $180 round trip. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bren
was on stream browsing ticket prices, and his chat was like, "Are you sure you want to fly now before the finals?"
I was willing to spend the money to go into quarantine, come out the other side, and just literally be part of society again for at least a month. But I didn't do it. Didn't bite the bullet, and I kind of wish I did. I've been following a lot of players' social media, and it's been fun, I guess. You know, they've actually been able to experience Korea and everything else. You guys want to move away from the All-Stars topic?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's start talking about some other stuff then, because some of the awards that got handed out included the Coach of the Year, which ended up going to Mr. Moon. I mean, his name's not Mr. Moon, but it went to Moon in the end. Yeah. This was, I believe, one of my votes. One portion of it did go to Moon.
For him.
He wasn't my number one vote, but I definitely respect this choice. The one thing I will say about this is that he was working with some of the best pieces in the Overwatch League. It's almost as if they didn't do well this season. It's almost like, okay, it's kind of...
it wasn't like he turned water into wine, right? I mean,
but I will say, we've had many cases in the Overwatch League over the past 2 years where coaches have had the pieces and they've still failed. And Moon did not fail. And he was coming off the back of, honestly, a bit of a turbulent season with the Valiant as well. You remember back then when there was all the drama and shit. So I remember when Moon was the coach, I was like, oh, that's an interesting pickup because I've heard some very mixed responses about him, but I think this proved as well that he's definitely up there when it comes to the coaches. Yep. So a well-deserved winner of the Coach of the Year award.
I would agree. It's almost like a bounce back Coach of the Year type of thing, right? Where he had a little bit of a rough go. Now gets us. I mean, you get like a fresh start with like a really good roster, but still, I mean, they have great results. They dominate APAC. I think it was well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, the only real time they lost was against Guangzhou in the Summer Showdown. But like, apart from that, they've really demonstrated a great play style and like knowing their strengths and playing it really well, which I think a lot of teams struggle with throughout the season. They struggle to find an identity, like what they're best at, what they're comfortable, how to swap away from it. But Shanghai Dragons, they have like an identity, and they're also very flexible in game, which is going to be very helpful at the grand final event. But like, they really figured out how their roster works, and I think Coach Moon deserves some credit for that.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to know like what the coaches actually do in the league. So I like the fact that the article about Moon winning Coach of the Year and the video talked to the players on the Shanghai Dragons to figure out like what they're doing, because the Coach of the Year award is from like the majority of the people who are voting for it really have no idea what Moon's responsibilities are, because every head coach, every GM, every assistant coach in the league has different responsibilities. It's not a set thing, so it's kind of hard. And Moon seems like very much of like a structural and he's going to help you with like your mentality and how you approach the game and that kind of stuff, rather than the nitty gritty of the actual coaching, which I think is like the strategic coaching, which I think he leaves in some of his assistant coaches' hands. So it's interesting. I mean, I think that there's so many good coaches this year. Wouldn't have been my pick, wasn't the Plat chat final pick, but he's certainly done a good job with the squad.
Yeah. Well deserved. Let's move on. Another award that got announced over the course of this weekend was the one that I almost leaked in the previous episode. It was
almost got announced last week.
Yep. It was Alarm winning the Rookie of the Year award. So this was, I think, quite expected from a lot of people, although some very hot competition for rookies this year. So still could have been in contention, but generally, Alarm getting Rookie of the Year, not too many surprises, to be honest.
Yeah. You wish you could kind of give this to like 3 people, but Alarm was just so sick all year long. It's kind of hard not to.
Well, here's the thing. At the beginning of the season, I remember we were having conversations, and we were saying Alarm's impact was a little bit underwhelming considering the hype coming in. But it was definitely towards the middle of the season and the tail end, which is where it matters for a lot of these awards, right? Where he got fired up, and you could see the impact across so many different roles. Like, the fact that they were running him on Brig at certain times as well. I mean, it's just... The guy's impact was astounding in the support position.
Yeah, it was really once he was able to, over the course of the full season, flex across many, many different roles. Like, that's where he had his value. It wasn't so much that, at the beginning of the season, he was playing, I think, pretty much exclusively the Ana. And it wasn't like he was lighting the world up to the point where we were immediately saying he's an elite level talent. But, like, he was always there doing his business. And then as things swapped over so that he could play more and more heroes, he just showcased an elite level ability on every single one.
Yeah, another thing as well that I really appreciated was just like how much emotion he showed in the award video as well. I think it's all these great interviews with the players who's won awards and like the interviews with their teammates and stuff as well. It just really highlights and showcases how much some of these awards mean for some of these players. Because like they dedicate their life to this game. They play this game like 8 hours a day, if not more in some cases. And like this is their career, this is their life, And being awarded some of these honors like Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, MVP, of course, like it really matters to some of these players. So just seeing how positively surprised they are and showing this much emotion when they're awarded it really just it's a good positive spirit boost,
Yeah, you can tell Alarm is the type of player as well that I would say he definitely kind of cares about this, and I would also say he expects, I think, more out of himself than just kind of winning the Rookie of the Year even already. Like this is the type of player I think who believes like he could be the MVP, could like someday can be the best player in the league. Where I think there's some players who, they're cool just being a good player, right? I think this is one who really wants to strive to be the best.
Yeah. Alarm is also just seems like a sweet dude.
He wrote that little letter to Poco, dude.
Yeah, I put that in the Discord call so that I could pull it up as well. It's so cute, genuinely really cute. Like, the guy has been grinding at the contenders level since he was 16 years old to get into the league, and has all of these expectations on him, but also all of the like hype around him, and he's already done so much good stuff within the contender scene. People are already talking about him being one of the best flex supports when he comes into the scene. He could have an ego. It is very reasonable to expect that a guy like this would have an ego. And then this letter is just so adorable. Alarm was writing a letter with the rest of the Fusion University, wishing the main Fusion squad good luck in the playoffs, season, the grand finals. Right? Yeah, for 2018. And it's just so good. He's talking about how nervous he was when he went to the Fusion house and he didn't say hi to Poco, but he regrets it because he wishes he could go to the gym with Poco, and he's like a big inspiration for him in terms of his personality and just general living, I think. And they have the same birthday. It's just adorable. And he signs it off, "Goodbye, handsome guy."
I remember when you wrote me a letter like this, Josh. You were first in Overwatch.
I don't know if I'll work the Overwatch League one day, but if I do, Matt,
I want to get close to you.
That is a lovely letter.
I said, you have such a trim body and great pecs and biceps. I hope one day I can emulate your dad bod, and that's what I'm doing right now by eating all of these Pringles.
There you go. Yeah, you're surpassing me. You're just gonna become one big wavy.
So I'm just getting a dog next.
We're gonna get to the grand finals, everything grand finals related later in the episode. But all these little bits of information, like the letter that Alarm sent to Poco even before he joined Fusion, all of it adding up as well. I mean, it's incredibly difficult out of all the storylines we have not to root for Philadelphia Fusion to win it all. You know what I mean? Like, it's a team that which is like weird because it's Philly, and Philly fans have this weird idea about themselves, like, yeah, we're Philly, fucking Philly, you know, they think that nobody likes them, but you know, their team is quite lovable in a lot of ways, and I think everybody does want to see them at least make it quite far, if not win the whole thing. But we'll talk about that more later on. Another thing that got announced, and I don't know where this got announced because I couldn't find the information for it, but the Roll Stars got announced.
It got announced during the Asian broadcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I saw the tank one and then I went to bed.
Yeah, they announced all of them. They announced the tanks and the supports, and
tanks for the first ones. I saw that and I passed out.
They synced them up to the challenges that they were doing. So they did like they announced the tank ones during the Winston challenge, and they announced Genji the support ones during the Anna challenge and stuff like that. So that's a good question, actually. Yes, there is an article here. Let me pop it in the chat for you guys. It's on the OverwatchLeague.com website.
Did they do separate role stars?
No, this one's 2019.
No, I have it.
Oh, you have it.
Did they do separate role stars for Asia and NA?
See, Chow, you know, Josh doesn't have all that info. Don't believe those talent takedown numbers you saw earlier. It could have been fake.
What did you ask, Bren?
Did they separate it by region?
No.
They didn't? They just did both of them together?
Yeah, it's just overall.
You don't know how next
Wait, is this last year? What is this?
Oh, there was a tie.
Yeah, this is last year.
Someone linked me last year.
Who just lied?
No, I gave you the one that's right, Kurt.
Yeah, I gave you the one too. So don't
I gave you the only wrong one.
Yeah, show the Discord.
Wait, what was on the Discord?
I mean, I might have to cut that out. My bad.
No, it's I
don't think let me check.
Nobody saw anything there.
Nope.
Yeah.
That wasn't on Discord.
Did we leak it?
We're just trying to get the viewers to look at the video itself. Just
links.
Refocus.
Oh, just links. That's
fine.
No,
there was nothing bad.
Yeah. We can keep that in.
The role stars are pretty interesting though, because it's so difficult to be able to select the top players, and it's very hard when there's been so many different metas and the regions have been split. And like, for example, you pick tank role stars, but you don't distinguish between main tank and off tank. Like it's a difficult system.
Yes, I think in the future, figuring out a way to separate the tanks and even the supports, I think is necessary.
Yeah.
Fleta, obviously, a fantastic candidate, though. For
DPS. Well, we had DPS are 5 because we had a tie. So you had Fleta, Sparkle, Carpe, on Slip. Is there really an argument with any of those?
I mean, people were complaining about Sparkle not having enough playtime this year. And also, I don't think Sparkle is that flexible. Like, my one big thing about the Roll Star Award is that it really seems like people's definition of the award is different, and therefore the results are a bit whack. Because I didn't vote for Sparkle. Sparkle wasn't even on my mind, because I do think that while he was playing a fantastic, extraordinary Genji and helped the Paris Eternal to the Summer Showdown victory, he does not define what Roll Star means to me. Because Roll Star
But didn't he define a whole part of the season?
What?
Like, his play in that moment kind of defined like a lot of the season for the Paris Eternal. Like, made the Paris Eternal an actual.
I don't think you and me have the same definition what Roll Star really means. Roll Star to me is a player who's always going to be in the lineup because he is so versatile and always brings elite performances. It's not about peak performance on like 1 or 2 heroes.
See, that's like an all-star to me. Like, somebody who's in the lineup all the time, who plays well, who excels, is like an all-star.
What?
Like, for me,
but we don't have all-stars. The all-stars are the Roll Stars in the Overwatch League.
I guess.
That's the award.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of look at it right because like that way, but I don't know. I just view the players who had the best peak, who were the best at moments throughout the year.
Yeah.
Well, the way I see it about Roll Stars is, if you are benched and you are a Roll Star, you are not representing the award appropriately because you probably don't have the flexible hero pool to like be in the roster.
How are the votes calculated?
People voted and they added them.
We invited general managers, head coaches, broadcast talent, and members of the media to cast 4 votes per role for eligible players. And
it wasn't open to the public, right?
Yeah, it's just a vote from GMs, head coaches, talent, and media.
Yeah, the only I feel kind of crappy that somebody like Smurf couldn't be like a tank Roll Star, or we didn't have any other main tank representation outside of Fearless.
It's kind of crazy.
Like,
I
think Void, Choi, and Krong are excellent picks, right? I don't have anything wrong with them. I think it's just
Krong with Sado, I think.
Yeah,
because I mean, but that's when it gets into the definition you were talking about, Matt. Like, Sado hasn't brought like the peak performances. I mean, I know his Reinhardt was super good early in the season, but he can play every main tank hero to such a good level.
Well, that's also the problem that if you were to parse out the off tanks and the main tanks, it would be really difficult to have any differentiation, I think, between lists. Because if we were going to go with the top 4 main tanks, I think all of our lists would be like eerily similar.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, though. The award.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think this probably sparks more conversation like this way.
Do you think?
And it sparks more choice, but I voted for 2 main tanks and 2 off tanks and 2 flex supports and 2 main supports in the way I did it. Just because I didn't feel good about stacking it.
What do you think about this then for Roll Stars? Do you think that whoever wins MVP, Rookie of the Year, as well, these 2 separate awards, could get an instant buy to the Roll Stars of their
probably
of their thing?
I could see someone making that case.
Maybe. I almost feel like we should have like 3 different teams of all Roll Stars and have like your kind of Roll Star rank 1s, which is like your top. You don't want to
over confuse it,
second
though, right?
tank.
Because I remember when this concept was being introduced and we were trying to find a way. The one risk with this is that you convolute the process, and that's why they do only have tanks, damage dealers, and supports.
Right,
and
but if you broke it down into
basically tanks,
pick 3 lineups, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of, you can separate it, and you can also kind of pick 3 from each role, right?
As for Rookie of the Year as well, sometimes the Rookie of the Year isn't going to be the top level.
Sometimes the Rookie of the Year isn't going to be. We've gotten kind of fortunate, I guess, with Rookie of the Years that they've been like incredible players like in the league. But sometimes the Rookie of the Year is not going to be a player who's like,
well, we don't know,
one of the best in the league.
I mean, it might not, but generally speaking, when a player comes up from contenders and it's their first season playing an Owl, they've probably got quite a storied history already and a lot of hype behind them.
But that doesn't mean they're a Roll Star, though.
It's not a guarantee.
Whereas,
you're right.
But the MVP really kind of is.
The MVP, I mean, yeah, if you're the MVP and you're not a role star, that's kind of odd, but
yeah, that would be almost impossible.
Yeah, it's an interesting set of awards. It's also something that we didn't really reference enough, I think, this year was the role stars.
Yeah, we probably could have hit it more.
Well, the role stars from last year though were, I mean,
we had some of them
league has
in
been,
the league. Yeah,
the league has been messed up because the like roles last year were screwed because we were all playing goats as well. So
true,
it was just all over the place.
And I would say, they're even just looking down the list of the role stars, like, there's not really anybody on here you'd be like, oh, get that guy off, right? Like, I think everybody kind of deserved it. I just feel bad for some of the players who I personally feel I thought had really good seasons who probably could have deserved it. Maybe getting kind of left off just because of how inflated some of the sections they're in are.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When people say, like, when people get angry, for example, at people not being listed as a top 4 support, for example, we're looking at FD God right now, who was a good example of this, I think. Yeah. Is like, I don't think FD God had a bad season. Do I think he's the 4th best support in the entire league? No, absolutely not. So it's not that you're shitting on players, but by putting certain people in these like elite groups, you're naturally having to leave out other people who are perhaps, in my opinion, more deserving, which is why, you know, you have to be careful about who you're saying is like top 3, top 5, this kind of stuff, because
everybody's top 5.
Yeah, not everyone can be that top level. Like that's not how maths works. So yeah, FD God is a bit of an odd one over on the support lineup. Like, I think definitely there would have been other choices there if you had asked most people. I mean, actually, that can't be true, can it? Because this was asking most people.
This was asking a lot of people,
staff of the Overwatch League and media.
Yeah, but FD God, I think, is a very strange pick.
The voting results.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it might trigger some wave of cyberbullying, but I mean, it would be interesting to see.
Responsibility, right?
Yeah, that is part of it. Yeah.
Look, if they're not public, I think that's okay. But I think there should probably be like a group that kind of just looks over them and makes sure people are just kind of voting in the right manner.
It incentivizes people to take it seriously.
Yeah, it also incentivizes people to just kind of go angry at people for their opinion. But yeah,
you saw how much Alarm really appreciate the Rookie of the Year award. Like, people really care about this shit, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting to see, like, no Hanbin when all of Reddit is all over him for having the highest stats on off-tank. That's like an interesting person that's not on this list, though I don't think he should be on the list, but it's certainly someone that people are going to clamor for. Smurf is also somebody that hasn't really been awarded at all this season that I think probably should be on this list. And then the other one is KSP, I think, is another pretty valid candidate for the damage role star. Yeah, KSP. Yeah, I think so. Because he's really exemplified like being able to play all hit scan at a top level throughout the entire year for a team that wasn't really expected to do that well, but he was part of the biggest reason why they were doing so well.
I voted for Decay over him.
Sure. Yeah, another very valid candidate.
I know.
I feel like I voted for Decay as well.
It's been a very controversial year for Decay, but you cannot deny how incredible he is across so many good heroes. Yeah. So, not even looking at the Zarya performances alone. Like, when he was playing on Dallas Fuel and playing Hitscan, like, my God. And, like, he's even played, like, projectile heroes.
He actually could win games.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, the way he just demolished the Houston Outlaws, like, Decay, to me, is a top 5 damage player in the league. So.
Yeah, definitely make a case.
Agree.
Let's move on to the one section that everybody is tuning into this episode for. Everybody wants to hear. We're saving the best for last because we've been hyping this up.
Takedown.
Yeah. The talent takedown.
The Winston 1v1.
Grand finals. This topic is who will win the grand finals. We're going to go by every single major storyline for each team here, starting with number 1, of course. Can the Shanghai Dragons go from Northern 40 in Season 1 to the champions? This is an awesome storyline, in my opinion, as well, because you've got Fearless on this roster who is playing for them and was part of that Northern 40 squad. That makes it just that better, because otherwise you're just saying, like, okay, well, they've got a new franchise. There's hardly any existing players from that Northern 40 season, but the fact that Fearless is an active member in this roster, he was part of the Northern 40 run, and now... I say Northern 40 run like they were actively trying to go Northern 40, but they now they've got a shot at the championship. It's a really cool storyline.
It was their
for
goal to go
Dragons.
0-40. They did it.
Technically 0-42 even. So
Yeah.
I'm still confident in Shanghai.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just, when you feel a little odd about a team, like everything just makes so much sense with Shanghai.
Yeah.
Like everything seems to be like stacked in their favor. Like they've been great all season. They have a phenomenally like deep team, great coaching. It looks like they don't have to travel in quarantine. They're able to stay and play at home. But like it seems like there's like a little bit of an uncertainty there. I don't know, for whatever reason. Do I think they're the champions? Like I think they're like for me, like they're one of like two teams I feel good about, but I might feel a little bit better about somebody else.
I think that the Shanghai Dragons are one of those unfortunate teams that have been dominant throughout the entire season, and then they come towards the playoffs and they look like they're a little worse rather than a little better. And that's a rough situation to be in. But at the same time, there's been a 2-week break where it's been like a 4-week break actually, where they could definitely have mastered some specific style. Yeah. And they've been so good all season long. You can't really, I felt we did an article at some point where they were asking me what was my prediction for the final. I don't know whether that article has gone out. I have no idea. But I felt like I had to say Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah.
Because even though you could make very good arguments for either of the North American teams, honestly, Shanghai have just been so good all season long, and this meta should be good for them. To the point where even if they don't look that great in their, upper bracket semis and upper bracket final matches in APAC, they're the most well-rounded team that you've got coming in.
They feel like a little bit like what year was season 1 when New York was like so good all year long, and then like towards the end, like you started kind of like think they could
New
crack,
York is a similar situation though, right? It's because in season 1, in terms of the meta shifts, from what I remember, at least looking back on it, there weren't too many radical meta shifts. They nerfed Mercy progressively over the year, which caused some shift in playstyles. But generally speaking, it was, there weren't these radical shifts which kind of screwed over New York. There have been drastic switches in metas this year, and Shanghai has still looked like they have been on top for at least a significant portion of them, which bodes incredibly well for them.
Mind you, this is the finals, I believe, are going to be played on the same patch as playoffs. So not with the Roadhog nerfs and stuff that's on live. Like Roadhog is still going to be like that guy. I mean, when you talk about meta shifts, like, I mean, I can't think of a bigger meta shift than that.
So but we were looking at Shanghai over the course of the playoff patch that we're on, and we were like, they're a little bit, they don't look as strong. They don't look as disciplined, or not disciplined. I think discipline's the wrong word, but practiced, and kind of their understanding of the meta seemed like it was a little bit short compared to some of the NA teams. At least that's my look in on APAC.
Yes,
this could be completely different. I mean, you still have to put Shanghai as the favorites because they've had 4 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yes, you're banking on them kind of getting better and figuring out within the 4 weeks.
And they haven't had to quarantine. They have had the perfect circumstances. They have to be the favorites coming into.
See, I think that, I agree with that. I think they're just such a comfortable team. Like, they look like they have a good system with Coach Moon, and they're very comfortable in their own roster and like their own gameplay, that I think they'll be able to figure this out. It looks so seamless, like when they make hero transitions as well to different kinds of compositions, and they're able to figure this stuff out in the middle of series and just flip series arounds because they look so like confident in the heroes they play and what they're going to execute within the game. I think the Shanghai Dragons, either they're going to just crash and burn for whatever reason, which I don't think they will, or I think they'll just comfortably like outplay their opponents. It won't be the like most impressive showing ever where they just dominate people, but like they'll comfortably just like beat all the other teams at this Grand Finals event. That's what I think anyway. And I think Shanghai Dragons, among all these 4 teams, I think they'll be able to find these small advantages within the maps themselves, where it's like one simple like hero swap that gives you a tiny bit of an advantage to play around. And I think they'll just like break their opponents back by these small advantages, playing out long series. Like we've seen in the past, like how Shanghai Dragons go to like map 5 or whatever, and they're just being able to like win the final map because they were able to figure something out or do something extra or adapt in the middle of something. I'm so scared about the Shanghai Dragons if I'm the other teams, because it just looks like it comes easy to them, and I think that's a really good sign of a fantastic team.
I bet the NA teams are kind of kicking themselves that the finals didn't happen pretty quickly, like that there was such a long gap, because coming out of the games, if you go back and you watch the Shanghai games that they just played, the game against New York and then the game against Seoul, which is they played the least matches out of any teams heading to the finals, because APAC has less teams and they won, so they didn't have to go to the lower bracket, you know. So but the game against New York, they had some really awkward hero picks. Like they were attacking on King's Row and they're playing the Reaper Sombra dive, and they swapped the Sombra to Widowmaker at the end, like attacking on King's Row. And it was just nonsense. They just ran it down mid for 3 minutes and just wasted their entire time back. Like super weird shit like that. Then they play against Seoul and they lose the first 2 maps in the series, and they have to pull out the Roadhog to be able to get back in and perform the reverse sweep there, which is again, like they looked shaky until they were able to match the Hog. And I think that the NA teams were ahead at that point. But I feel like all it takes is a matter of time, and Shanghai will be straight back to where they were throughout the rest of this entire season, which is theoretically excellent at whatever compositions they have to play. They're definitely the most all-rounded of the teams that we have. Like they can match the Hog and just be fine. They can put Izzyaki on the Zen and be able to play Lip on the Widowmaker. They can play the Sombra compositions. There's no other team that can play all 3 of those archetypes as well.
Sure. Just before we move on, I'll prompt you guys this as well. It gives you something to mull over while I run to the restroom because I'm about to piss myself. Do you think in these 3 weeks that we've had, despite there being no patch change, do you think there's going to be a meta change? Because one of the things that I was thinking about was, I think some teams at least, they have an opportunity here to find specific areas of where they think certain comps work best. Because you remember the Washington Justice comp, right? When they're running the Zarya so much. There's a lot of opportunities for them to maybe tech out 1 or 2 heroes in a comp and find opportunities to run that on specific scenarios. Do you feel like the meta is going to shift in that regard? Do you think that this would give Shanghai a disadvantage? Because we're all under the impression that Shanghai are the favorites. They have the most going into this. I think they have the best chances of succeeding. But could they be thrown off by this? But do you think other teams are going to be catching up in that regard?
I think teams are going to play a ton of Roadhog. I think we're going to see a ton of Roadhog. I really do.
A reminder to everybody that we're still on the patch that we were previously playing. We're not on the live patch. We're not on the patch that you guys are playing on the servers right now.
And from what I understand, if teams had a little bit more time before NA playoffs, the whole thing would have been Roadhog. It's just teams did not have enough time to practice, work around it. And obviously there's no updates since then. So I gotta believe a lot of this time spent has been mastering the Hog, working around Hog, playing around it, and really kind of getting your Washington Justice on, so to speak. Because I think a lot of teams,
but they're probably not going to be playing the Hog Zarya.
No, they're not going to play Hog Zarya. I don't think
Zarya's too. I don't know. You lock it in, you know.
Shanghai could. I mean, with Void, right? I mean, Void is a crazy good Zarya.
Yeah, it just doesn't offer you the same flexibility in the fights.
Like Diva.
Like a Diva or a Sigma or something like that. Are very good in the mirror fights.
I think Roadhog will be like almost a staple though on a lot of maps.
Yeah.
I think this plays into Shanghai the best.
Because it's hard to say though.
Like where,
you don't know.
This is like where like Prophet like smiles on his way to the bank and just like with his, like a little shit-eating grin, and he's just like, yep, here we go, playoff time. We're going to play Roadhog. Gesture's going to pop off on an off roll, and we're just going to laugh our way to the bank and just
honestly, that's the only surprise. It's the only thing I feel good about with Seoul is the fact that I've seen them do it already. Like I've seen them play it.
Well,
no,
we were just talking about.
Comps.
The meta going the direction of Hog, because I agree with you, Matt. I think that the meta probably was trending in that direction. The question comes down to when these teams are scrimming in Korea while they're getting prepared. There's like 3 things that people were playing. There was the Hog compositions where you could play it with like the Pharah, the Tracer Ash, whatever the hell. Then there's the like Sombra Reaper dive, which already I think there's only one team that has been able to beat the Hog comps with that. So I can't see how that would become meta. Yeah, like Philly, I don't feel like their comp could become meta particularly.
You wouldn't go all in if you're Philly doing that.
Yeah, and then there's the Shock kind of stuff where they're running the Zen Mercy and the Tracer Ash, but they're trying to run the Winston with it. I don't think that's going to work either. I think they're going to have to go over to the Hog version of that. You remember when like Choyobin and Smurf or Choyobin and Super were still running the Striker on the Tracer and Ants on the hit scan and Violet on the Zen, but they had that like Hog Diva or Hog Zarya tank line as well. I think that's the direction things were going in, but the only team we've really seen, like we've seen all of the teams try that at various points, but none of them have specialized in it apart from Soul.
And the thing I think Hog does that's interesting is like, remember when we used to say like Mercy just kind of enabled you to pick anything just because like she was so ridiculous? Like Hog, outside of like getting hacked or biotic grenaded, like just takes up so much space, and he's just such a threat all of the time with Hook that you can almost play anything with it. It doesn't really matter. Because your main threat is always the 600 HP healing, moving ball of death in front of you, just hitting shift and bringing you in, and you're dead. So I like your point, Josh. I think it's valid as well. It's like I think Hog will be a focal point. Will it be the same kind of things around him though? Like, will you still see like the Ash and the Tracer? Will you still see like Mercy Zen? Like, what will you see in combination with Roadhog? I think that could have changed since the last time we saw games.
Yeah, teams could have distilled down where they think it's appropriate to play those roles, whereas before we just kind of just saw teams forcing the issue almost.
The horrible thing for Seoul Dynasty though is that all right, Gesture, Prophet, Bdosin, they've been there before. They've proven that they can be able to turn it up in the playoffs. But they're also the only team that we've seen directly lose in the hog to hog matchup. You know, like they specialized in it. It's their everything. They know where they play it on every single map, and then they go up against Shanghai and they just lose the mirror. They just beat them until Shanghai mirror them, and then they lose. So, what have they got?
I will say, though, wasn't it... We interviewed someone, and I can't recall who it was, but they said that, like, all season, Soul has really struggled to, like, iron out, like, small problems, and they've always struggled to, like, fix, like, their team chemistry issues, and they haven't agreed on, like, hero picks and, like, all of these kind of stuff. And I think it was Prophet who actually said, like, this playoffs meta is actually like the first time all season when Seoul Dynasty is really comfortable and really optimistic and are working together. And so I think that, yes, they might have actually lost that series to the Shanghai Dragons, but if they can specialize properly and not like second guess themselves like they do so very often, I do think they could push their potential, like their peak potential. Because I think the problem for Seoul this year has just been like they second guess themselves when it comes to compositions, and they're not able to like push themselves to the top all the time because they change things up. So I am still keeping Seoul in mind because I do think they could push their peak potential very high and really show up.
I think it's got to be on Prophet. Like when I look at Prophet play, he's obviously the star player for that roster, but his Pharah play has been really top level. And the advantage of having Prophet in is that you're flexible enough to be able to take like, you take a player that other teams are going to be running their hit scan specialists because they're going to want some Tracer player in or some Ash player. But Prophet, the advantage of him is that he's elite level at the Pharah and the Tracer. So in theory, you should be able to run him on both of those to a top level. But it relies on him playing the Sombra there as well, I think, because Fitz has to slot into the Ash role. When I talk about this, it's annoying because theoretically Prophet should be amazing, but instead they've had Prophet playing the Ash a lot, where he actually isn't amazing. So they're like,
so odd.
They're taking a player that should be their star player and is in some variations of the comp, but in a lot of the time they're just sitting him down on the Ash and hoping that he can hit the shots. Where you're not putting that guy in a position to succeed if you put him on the Ash.
Coming into the grand finals, I like to take a look at the betting odds for various teams just to see where the algorithm is. Like, because a lot of these gambling companies,
where people believe.
Say again.
It's like that's the way the lines move on, like how many people kind of believe in a certain team.
How many people believe, but also it takes into account a lot of outside factors. Like these companies will never reveal their algorithms for how they're deciding it, but it's a whole bunch of different data that they take in, and they're starting to move it into esports. It's pretty interesting to look into anyway. I got a friend who works for a betting company, so I learn a lot about that. Seoul are the underdogs.
Bren's player of the week.
No, but Seoul are the underdogs in this. In terms of the odds, they are not the favorites at all. They have the worst odds out of any of these teams coming into this. And as the topic suggests as well, we're talking about Gesture, Profit, and Bdosin being repeat winners. Also not mentioned here is Fury, but he's playing on the Philadelphia Fusion, so not really applicable for this storyline that we're talking about. But I missed the tail end of your conversation. What you were talking about was Seoul, but I kind of got the grips of it. What do we think about Seoul here? Do we still think there's an opportunity for them to upset some teams like they were doing with their composition? Or is this time break, is this time where other teams have had to perfect these compositions, is this going to be working against them?
This is one of the teams that probably would have wanted to play right away.
Yeah.
Just because they had a grasp of what was going on and they were kind of trending in the right direction with it, where they probably could have taken a team that's better than them and beat them. I think now, though, that they've given, they didn't really give, it wasn't their decision, but because of the quarantine and how long it's been, I feel like you've given these other teams a time to close that gap, which now I feel much better about all of the other ones in like a head-to-head.
I mean, I would genuinely be surprised if Seoul won a match. I would be actively surprised.
I would tend to agree with Josh.
Yeah, I mean, they are this underdog. Yeah, for sure, I can get that. But like, when I look at some of these teams and you have so much practice to prepare, it comes down a lot to like coaching systems and like how they're approaching practice, and that's why I believe in the Shanghai Dragons so much, because like I'm confident in how that organization works, and I know they're going to probably figure it out one way or another. The thing with Seoul Dynasty for me is, are they going to be able to harness that kind of like energy throughout their entire boot camp leading up to it? Like, will Changoon as the head coach be able to take this composition now and push it in that direction? I know I said that I think that Seoul can push their peak potential higher and definitely be a team to contest with, but I do think that they'll have to show us something that they haven't really shown us so far this season. So that's why I think there is a lot of Seoul Dynasty doubters, because they haven't really shown this season that they are a team to trust.
Yeah, I think they're so fucking YOLO. Like, actually, they just
soundbites.
They are.
Like, they always have been right from the beginning of being London Spitfire. They are a YOLO kind of team. They
fucking send it down mid fucking team. Just
they'll like throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. They'll try and play very individually. They are more sloppy than they are disciplined, but they're incredibly talented. I think that these players are very, very good elite level players, but they are unlikely to win another championship until they get that kind of discipline, because the way that they won in 2018 is not replicable. It was mad. It was a truly insane situation that led to them being able to grab that victory. And they haven't made fundamental shifts in their approach and structure even after they've changed organizations. So
them coming out,
I don't think so.
Them coming out number one out of these four teams would be like the biggest upset. Like, you can see them winning.
I don't think so. I actually don't agree. I know I'm the sole Dynasty simp here, but like I feel like they are like not that far off. I think that the first three teams are definitely in a tier on their own, but I can see Seoul like punching upwards.
Yeah.
You said that all season. You said that all season.
No. But one thing that we always talk about that is a meme at this point, but it's always about these players being playoff players. You know what I mean? Where they end up turning up, elevating their gameplay. How many times have we said about, Profit and Gesture, they turn up at playoffs because
Were they even in the playoffs last year?
No. They got. Well, I think they played in the play-in and just got into the playoffs, and then they went out in the first round or something like that.
Goats added well, it wasn't even Goats, was it? But
it wasn't Goats at that point.
No.
It added so many outside factors that season. We write that off. But it's still, that's why it's a bit of a meme.
Season. What about all the factors this season?
This season? I mean, they've had some times where they've turned up at playoffs, haven't they?
We're about to do the
finals. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Please keep in mind the May Melee finals.
When we have talked about Seoul Dynasty
against Shanghai.
Think about when we talked about Seoul Dynasty, and do you remember? I distinctly remember this. Our predictions for Seoul coming into every tournament. Nah, they're gonna go out round one. They're gonna go out round one. Matt, you even predicted Seoul to go to the finals of one of them. We gave you shit for it, and it happened. Like Seoul have consistently done well in playoffs this year. There's an opportunity for them to go quite far.
But maybe it's just because APAC was overrated. Maybe it's just because APAC was overrated.
You're both talking over each other.
Yeah, because I'm trying to establish dominance over a small.
One of you, one of a time.
My mic works. I predicted the Seoul Dynasty.
You're both
to make the
trained
top 4, and they did.
Broadcast professionals. Johnny, you go first.
I saw it on TV. You're supposed to talk over each other.
Yeah.
It would be the least. Oh my god, this is so weird though, because even though I don't think Seoul are gonna win a match, I think the most likely outcome is that they don't bomb out, but they go out in like 2, fairly close competitive games, but they just go out. I think this is the most likely 4th place team to make a run out of any that we've had in previous years. But that's just because the top 4 are so good this year, that the event looks so good. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think Seoul have a good chance of winning, though. Like, the chance of them winning, I would say, is much less than 20%. And you would expect it to be 25% because there's 4 teams, right? If it was totally random, I think it's much less than 20% the chance that Seoul Dynasty end up winning the entire thing.
Well, that's with our current information, right? That we have.
But also I would also expect them to be the team that is rewarded least for the break. For that time to be able to develop and spend time refining their strats and stuff like that. They kind of hit on the right comp early, but in order to stay ahead of the competition, especially when the competition is so good and has such great coaching structure on all of the other top 3 teams that are in there, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I don't think they could stay ahead of the pack. They would require some enormous playoff potential to be able to do that.
Winning like a game for me, I would be like, okay, they kind of overperformed where I thought they would. Like, I think this is a quick 0-2.
I just love that they have so much like chaotic energy, though.
It's
because getting extra time to prepare can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. Now, the thing is, we're dealing with 4 top teams here. So the odds of it actually being a curse for some of these teams is so low. But I have seen teams in the past where they have too much time to prepare and they like overthink and they like, second guess themselves because they put so much time into practicing this one system, but then they lose like one match and they're like, oh, we put like 2 weeks of practice into this one thing and now it's not working. What are we doing? We're panicking. So it's like, it can be a blessing and a curse, but I don't think any team is like gonna bomb out. But Seoul Dynasty would be my pick to be like the fuck you opponent that just like is ready like a shark, just waiting to take some of these teams down if they just like hesitate for a second.
See, for me, it feels like we had 3 teams that were almost virtually locks for this, and then the second place in APAC was just a complete toss-up. At some points in the season, it looked like Guangzhou, looked like New York for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look at the regular season. Look at the standings.
For one game, it looked like Hangzhou. I mean, we were talking about Chengdu at one point. I mean, I think this is a spot that just was a little bit chaotic in general. Who was going to come out?
Regular season map differential: Shanghai plus 44, Philly plus 40, San Francisco Shock plus 39. Next best is New York at plus 20, and they're down in the 7th spot. So there's a massive gap between the top 3.
What did they actually finish?
Seoul were at -7. They were 12-12 with -7 map differential in the number 11th position.
Now,
so I mean, there's a different caliber throughout the entire year at play here between Seoul and the other top 3.
And I think you kind of is if you think Seoul, if you think APAC is like the better division, right? Is it like that big of a difference, right? Where the number 2 team could then beat a team that had a plus 40 map differential after they went through the season with a -7 one? Like,
seems unlikely to me. But it would be a fantastic story if they were able to pull some more miracle out.
Winning some stuff.
Yeah, some repeated winners. Let's talk about another storyline, though, and that is the San Francisco Shock also being back-to-back winners, because there's a lot of opportunities for repeat winners this year. A lot of opportunities. Yeah. And the Shock are looking like they are closing in on it as well. This is a team that ended the sort of the playoff period before, obviously, the grand finals that we're going into, looking quite strong. They looked improved. We always had these questions, right? When is the San Francisco Shock going to be coming alive? Because it seemed like as well, 2019, they had that moment where they went down into the lower bracket, got knocked down there by Atlanta, and then had one of the most dominant playoff runs in the history of esports. And we were wondering, is that going to happen again this year? But they definitely look like they had a slow start, but now they have heated up to proper form, is the way I would look at it.
But it's not a dominant, unbelievable run like last year. It would be, I think, wrong to sell people that narrative because they certainly still look mortal. Like they looked like coming into the upper bracket final game in North America, most people, I think, favored Philly in that game, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think the only kind of compositions where the Shock have looked amazing have been those Tracer Ashe, Tracer Widowmaker, where they've got the Violet on the Zen and they're just pounding you with damage from a long range distance, just dominating the high grounds. Outside of that, like the Reaper Sombra hasn't looked that great. The Hog has got some problems in terms of like who do they even field in order to execute it. They definitely look beatable, even though you could have them as a favorite.
Honestly, this is a good match for Soul in round one. Like if you were Soul and you wanted obvious like either Philly or Shock, I probably would want Shock.
Yeah.
In terms of how you play and you're a little chaotic and you've shown like you can do the Roadhog stuff quite well. If my gut tells me Soul actually is probably okay with this draw.
I'll tell you this though, wouldn't be surprised if Shock did end up winning this year.
No. Neither would I, and that's because I have so much faith in Krusty in terms of the coaching, in terms of the San Francisco Shock. Once they figure out what the meta is, to be able to perfect that, I have a lot of faith in them to be able to do that. I also think they were trending in the right direction. If I had to guess what the meta would be for these finals, I think it's going to be like Tracer Ashe, or sometimes you'll be able to run a Pharah, and sometimes you'll be able to run a Sombra. But generally speaking, on like these wide open maps, it's going to be the Tracer Ashe, the Zen Mercy, and the Roadhog with like Roadhog Diva or Roadhog Sigma, something like that. I feel like that's going to be your general comps. And as long as Super can play the Hog, and so they have, or fuck it, maybe Smurf is as well. But as long as one of those main tanks can play the Hog and let Choyobin play the off tanks, this Shock team has the best DPS and possibly the best Zen for just shitting out damage.
Yeah. I mean, you just want, if you're the Shock, you definitely just want to be able to rely on Uns and Striker to be like the difference makers. Just make them comfortable, let them shine, and that is like your win condition this entire event, I do think.
Yeah.
I do agree with you on the tank concerns as well. Like, if you play Roadhog, like who's going to play it? There was something else I was going to say. You don't think we'll see a ton of like Sombra Reaper, like Winston, right? Because there's going to be so much Roadhog, right? So
I you guys are theorizing that Roadhog's going to have a resurgence, but I think it's more likely that teams will just find the right moments to play certain compositions.
Yeah, that could also happen. Just very map-specific stuff. But
Roadhog is the right composition.
You're like a toddler. I mean. You're just shaking your head like we're trying to feed you some apple.
There are very
sauce.
few maps where you can't run the Hog, though.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, I mean, you can force it on most places. I remember what I was going to say. Ans, like his Sombra as well, it has been good so far. But like, can it be like the difference maker big play Sombra? Because what often happens, like when you get down to these like finals matchup, semifinals matchup, like your Sombra player usually have to come up with like a huge, enormous play. They're just going to turn the entire match around, or like win out in a tough scenario, like you're on the verge of like capping point B or like capping point A, and you need your Sombra to really come up clutch. Like, we know that Ants has a good Sombra because he's shown it a few times now, but can he bring that like game-changing moment on this Sombra? I think that's a question as well for the San Francisco Shock if they're going to win some of these matches.
Yeah. Would be cool, though. I think the weird thing is, I feel like the public perception of the San Francisco Shock is that a lot of people still don't want them to win. Like, they were still, in a lot of people's minds, they were the villains last year, and that's still the case even now, I think.
You think they were the villains last year?
People did not like Shock last year.
When did that happen?
I thought the Titans were really considered the villains,
and
the Shock were like...
No, Runaway had so many fans.
Yeah, there was a recurring...
Bumper...
there was an underlying feel for the Shock in comments and social media that I was reading around last year, where people didn't want the Shock to win because it was so dominant.
Oh, sure. People love an underdog story, that kind of stuff. Is that more the sentiment?
Yeah, but I don't think they like actively like rooted against them though.
I don't know if I
think
agree,
they did.
but I will say this year it's been more noticeable.
Like I remember finals, weren't they oh hey, what's up, Hugo? Weren't the Titans like getting booed and the Shock getting cheered when they came out?
Well, it was in North America.
No, I don't think
anyone got booed when they came out of the finals.
I kind of remember I kind of remember me and Mitch talking about it because they did, yeah.
I mean, that would be insane. I feel like I would remember that so vividly if a team got booed at a third-party location.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
I
ever happened.
do.
But
I mean, we can go back and take a look.
It does still stand.
I'm gonna go back and look.
People just didn't. People still don't like the Shock. The San Francisco Shock are kind of like what Philly fans want Philly to be like in my mind. This is how I picture it. It's where like Philly fans want their team to be dominant. They want people to dislike them in a certain sense. But Shock have just got that anyway, and I don't know what that. I don't know where that really comes from. I think it's because as well, one of the spokespeople for that team is Super, and he is a classic Philly guy. So it's kind of, he's brought that over to the Shock, I think, with that kind of persona. It's that cocky go-getter attitude. But I'm a bit of a Shock simp. I wouldn't be upset to see them at all being back-to-back winners. I think
there are a lot of very attractive like storylines with new teams, right? Because if you look at a team like the Paris Eternal, so many people like the new Paris Eternal. They love the storyline as well with Fielder, playing from Korea, and people like really got onto that. Sparkle.
Yep.
And so some of these teams like Philadelphia Fusion never winning, like they can get behind that easily.
There's definitely...
They've seen them. They've come and go. One thing I've really thought about recently, past couple of months, is like, it feels like fans and the community, they really like a narrative because it's like hipster or whatever, and they just like get onto this new narrative. It's fresh, it's attractive to them, and then they just get bored and they just stop rooting for a player or a narrative because they just get bored with it and they just move on. And with that, they start underrating the previous narrative or the previous player they rooted for because they don't talk about him as much and they don't really care as much anymore.
Yeah,
it's just cyclical.
Is this all coming back to Rascal?
Yeah.
No. Don't worry about it.
Johnny calling other people out for peddling their narratives by slyly peddling his own narrative.
Yo, genuinely, if Rascal comes out, this is something that I haven't heard anyone talk about, but I was just thinking about this. If Rascal comes out and has a big role in the finals, for whatever reason, if they've decided that Sombra is required, if they need the Pharah to come out and so Rascal's the pick, there's certain hypothetical scenarios in which Rascal could play a big portion in these playoffs, then he does have an argument for a GOAT candidate in Overwatch. At the amount of time that he's been around, the stuff that he's achieved, the back-to-back wins in the Overwatch League, both of which having a strong appearance, that is a genuinely super strong argument for a GOAT-level player.
Yeah,
he's been on the bench.
He hasn't been on the bench that much. He's been on the bench for like 30% of the time. That's very reasonable considering the
GOAT's on the bench 30% of the time.
Bro, no. Listen.
Name any top player that isn't when it comes to DPS.
Consider his storyline as well about how he was in the Dallas Fuel, went down to contenders, grinded in on NRG, brought back into the Shock system, matured up. That is a proper GOAT storyline. And then
after having already been dominant when it came to like Apex, not dominant, but having already been like incredibly competitive at the top level in Apex for so long.
I agree with you there, Josh. I like that storyline.
Because when you think about the rest of the
What about Moth, Bren?
Yeah, who is it? Is it Moth? Choi Open? I don't really know. Like
Violet. Violet's not bad.
He hasn't been with them for that long.
GOAT candidate.
But Violet was with them last year and this year, though.
If you're a back-to-back Overwatch League champion, then that is already a ticket to being talked about as a GOAT possibility, right?
Yes.
Like no one else has really achieved that level of high-tier championships.
Who is
you could put
MVP
Apex on the same pedestal, but you wouldn't.
Yeah.
The finals MVP was Choi Open.
Choi, yeah.
I mean, Choi
Open could be a candidate.
Choi would be the most obvious choice because it's most likely that he will be playing. If they get to the finals, it will be him playing. Whereas it might not be Moth. I mean, it might be Moth.
You can make a case for Violet. He's in all the time. He's definitely in
Violet.
the top 2 or 3 at his position, and started back-to-back years on.
I mean, I definitely don't think Violet's a GOAT candidate though.
Yeah,
because he just doesn't have the tenure as well.
You think Rascal over?
Over Violet? Okay, yeah, absolutely.
So tenure, I guess you're just kind of considering like all of Overwatch history.
Violet wasn't even with them for 2018, or like, and 2018. Okay, it's the shock they had a shit team in 2018, so you can say that for a lot of their players. But he came in like what, a third of the way through 2019 as well, and he doesn't even play all of the flex support roles.
I just feel like when you talk about like a GOAT, like it needs to be like kind of not like clear cut, but like.
Yeah, there are no great GOAT candidates. I don't think there is a GOAT at the moment in Overwatch League.
I don't think it's a GOAT either.
But it's possible that we might have
if Soul
pretty good
and Prophet played well. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Even
for
if they make it to the finals, I'd say Prophet.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell they. Yeah, he makes it a second round. I'm down. I mean, like,
if the Philadelphia Fusion managed to win, then Fury has also got a pretty decent candidacy for it, even though he didn't really do anything before the Overwatch League. The guy was playing on Liquid, and then I think some like mid-level contenders teams. Oh, I suppose that would have been Apex before that, but he's been so good for so long on the off tank.
What if Philly 1 and Carpe played a big role? Got them to a finals in year 1, year 2, kind of like.
I think Carpe is like a huge performance away from doing that, though. Because I just remember, like, they made it to a 2018 Grand Final, but Carpe just fell flat.
He has one big game where he pops off.
But he got them there.
And, like, he got them there. I mean, his Widow in season 1 literally dragged him there. Yeah.
I don't think you can sleep on EQO's Hanzo as well. I think it was more of a partnership, and then you have Fury as well. Who played?
But Carpe was insane on DPS throughout the whole of 2018.
Season 1, right? They had Boombox, Hotba.
Oh, sorry,
I made a similar argument for Carpe about being like an MVP. The way I phrased it got a lot of people angry because I was talking about Faker, right, as a player in League of Legends, who is just this absolute legendary player in terms of status. And I was like, is Carpe the closest thing we have to it in the Overwatch scene? And the thing is, it depends on how much you weigh actually winning a championship. But the thing is, you cannot discount it. And just being in the grand finals is not the same as winning it, and it really can't be equated at all. A back-to-back winner should have way more of a say in terms of being recognized as a GOAT candidate than Carpe, even if he wins this year.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree. I also
even
think
before Owl, I think he doesn't have that tenure that you look at someone like Prophet or even Rascal does.
So.
Sure. Let's talk about Philadelphia.
Super, he's done on multiple roles.
Let's talk about Philadelphia here. The final team in our grand finals. Will they finally break this curse that we've been talking on and on and on about? Yeah. Will they win a finals? This is the storyline that I actually want to see the most out of all of these come true. And
I want to see them win.
You're a Fusion simp now?
I'm not a big Philly fan. I just think this would be a sick storyline. They have come close in so many finals, and they've always dropped the ball. And I think for them to, because it is honestly stacked against them in a lot of ways. They've had to quarantine. They've had to travel to Korea. They're coming into this not the favorites in their own region. Like this is a team though, and I think if they did do it, it would be a legendary moment in the Overwatch League. I want to see it happen just because the storyline would be sick. That's the thing with me, Josh. Not a fan of specific teams, although I am a fan of some teams, but I'm just a fan of good.
I'm not a fan of teams, just a few teams.
but yeah, like because it does. I mean, I am a fan of Shock, and I like a lot of the players on the Shock, but. I'm in general, the thing that supersedes that is I'm just a fan of general Overwatch and general storylines. I want to see good games played. I want to see good teams. I want to see the storylines kind of played the way out.
Yeah. I want to see this team win, or I want to see them get first rounded. I don't think I could. I don't think I could
get first rounded.
Why do you want to see him get crushed?
I don't think I could watch them make it all the way to the finals and then lose again. I don't think I could do it.
But imagine if they do, and then they make it to the finals next year.
I would just feel brutal.
See, go on, Matt.
Now, I think there's a better chance they win it all than get first rounded. But I kind of agree with Bren. And I actually, in the same article that may or may not be released that Josh was a part of, I picked Philly to win.
Really? Did you?
Yeah, I took Philly.
Why?
I feel like they have a really deep roster. They have a good coaching staff.
They do.
Seems like they had a good grasp of what was going on before they left for Korea. And it seemed like they just needed to figure out a way to build on it a little bit by incorporating some of the other players on the roster potentially. I think, at least my feeling, is they have one of, if not the highest ceiling out of the teams there. Like, I think Philly at their peak beats Shanghai. And I think that's, I mean, this round one matchup for me, like, almost is like a mini final, at least in my gut of it. Like, if Philly wins this, I think they have enough momentum to just beat whoever it is in round two, whether it's Seoul or Shock.
Yeah, I think this match will teach us a lot about the rest of the event moving forward. Like, we'll be able to tell a lot about, you know, how these teams will look like moving forward, more so than I think Seoul against
Shock.
Shock, yeah. So my brain is just on the
I'm very worried.
Can I just say about the fusion as well? Like, I'm jaded. I'm jaded. I you know how in sports there's that one team that also comes close, but you're sort of like over it. You're just like, come on, like,
you don't want to have your heart broken again.
I know what this team is about. I've seen it too many times. I'm not going to put my emotional investment in this team because, like, I know what's going to happen.
Status already, Johnny?
Huh?
They've reached New York status already.
New York status?
Yeah, I remember there was a certain point like last year where we just kind of gave up on New York. We wanted to see them win.
Jonathan had a famous line where he was like, New York aren't going to do it. They're done. They're over.
I have addressed that on a different podcast, you know, my infamous moment.
Why are you going on other podcasts?
Because I'm tired of talking to you sometimes.
There's other Overwatch podcasts?
And so, what was I talking about? They're sort of like that like sports team that always like has a good lead, and you're like, oh, they just have to like coast this out now, and they're going to win it, and they always like mess up or something, and they just end up losing the match, and you're like, I knew this. Like, I knew this.
I don't give a fuck about that, man. I want to see. I want to see Philly win. This, out of all the storylines, this is my favorite one.
I agree.
I want to see this happen.
I'm sorry, Tucker, but like, Tucker, I can't stand.
It helps as well, though.
I don't want to get my heart broken again. Like, I can't do it, man. Just do it.
I like all the players on their team as well, and all of their staff. I literally like every single part of this team.
But you're not a fan.
But I'm not
like all the players. You like all the staff. You like the colors of the jerseys. You like the city.
You can't choose who you love. You can't choose who you love. And, you know, listen, my first love was the San Francisco Shock. You know what I mean? Like, that team that captured my heart. Well, here's the thing: if the Shock get rid of Krusty, then maybe I'm rethinking. But outside of that, the Philadelphia Fusion have got everything going for them this year. I don't stand by that, Johnny. Maybe you feel that way, but I'm gonna be watching, holding my breath.
Let me know what your thoughts are. But I've seen teams like this in esports in the past, and it's just like, once they win one of these big games, it just kind of explodes. Like, I feel like they're a win in a big game away from gaining all of this, like, just kind of like delusional confidence and just exploding and just like winning.
But they should.
I feel like they're so close, and I think
they have a fantastic roster.
A win in round one against Shanghai, I think, gives them that. Like, if they come out and they beat the Dragons right off the rip, they know they can beat the Shock. They've already done it. If the Shock loses to Seoul, I mean, you got to feel good about Seoul, considering you took out the best in the APAC already. I think they have to be looking at this first match as like, this is their grand finals. That if they were able to defeat the Dragons, one, knock the Dragons into losers, and then give themselves one game away from the end match, this is massive for Philly.
God, this event is going to be so close.
Would be pretty cool.
I'm really worried about. I'm super worried about Philly's DPS line. I'm not. This might sound crazy when we're talking about like Carpe as like a GOAT candidate or something like that. I'm not sure that Carpe and Hisu, or Carpe and Ivy, or Ivy and Hisu, or whatever they're gonna end up fielding, I don't think they can go toe to toe with these other top teams. To be honest, when it comes to the like long range and tracer duels and that kind of stuff, they've been running Ivy and Hisu because they've been running a lot of the Reaper Sombra. And then when they want to go to more long range hitscan stuff, which I think the meta is trending in that direction. I don't think Philly are going to be able to get away with playing Sombra Reaper because they're the only team that can play that. When they played against the Shock, the meta they ended up having to mirror the long range stuff that Shock was playing because you just can't close the distance before Ants gets a kill or Violet snipes someone and Striker tears you to pieces. Yeah. So then when you mirror it, you've got to sub in Carpe and Hisu probably to run that kind of thing. All right, well, not only does that not give you the flexibility of somebody like Prophet to be able to run the Pharah, but you don't have anywhere near the firepower of an Ants and a Striker. I mean, it's not close. Who's playing the Tracer there? If Carpe is, well, you still give the edge to Striker. And if Hisu is, well, he's going to get eaten alive. And Carpe isn't probably going to win the duels against Ants. You compare that as well to even like Shanghai when you're talking about Flutter and Lip. Well, that's better when whatever role Hisu is on, he's getting outmatched here. And the same would apply to Ivy.
Did you guys watch the Jake interview with Funny Astro?
No, I didn't
did
catch
say
that.
Ape was overrated.
So they both kind of alluded to APAC being overrated in the sense that overall APAC probably was stronger, but maybe not necessarily the top of APAC.
Okay.
That APAC was a little bit of a deeper, like maybe the floor wasn't as Boston Uprising, Washington Justice-esque. It was a little higher.
I mean, that's something
but
that
maybe that the skill ceiling was not as high as like the Philly or
we've been saying that though last couple of episodes.
Right. That's kind of
only in certain portions of the year. But even then, I mean, what are they basing that on too? Because are they saying that the only way that applies to this conversation is, do they think Hisu's generally better than Fleder is at Tracer, or better at Ash or long range hitscan than Lip is? Because
right, I mean,
all right, I can say that Carpe would hang with them. I can totally believe that. But I don't think that they've got the depth in their DPS line to be able to play double hitscan at the same level as these other top teams.
Right. If it does go into double hitscan, I guess that's kind of your worry. Because I was going to say,
all the Pharah, or like Pharah-based compositions. I mean,
you'd have to sub an EQO, right?
EQO, and then you're just locked on the Pharah.
Well,
because you're not going to put EQO on the...
Ivy can play some Pharah, right?
Yeah, Ivy would also be great. But then what is Ivy playing when he's not on the Pharah? Is he going to play the Tracer? You're just kind of locked into these comps, whereas the other teams are either flexible or much better than you at hitscan.
And that's what I mean when I'm talking about Shanghai. It's like Shanghai, they can just kind of do that on the fly a bit more than teams like Philadelphia Fusion.
Sure. And what I know that might sound like, oh, DPS diff is such like it's generally speaking not what decides the games. It's more to do with your tanks and your understanding of the meta and that kind of stuff. But in this specific meta, I think it is a lot to do with your DPS, because the Hog slows down the game so much that it gives you tons of time to find the picks on whatever long-range hitscan you're running and have your Tracer clean up the fights really well. And your Zen in the backlines is outputting shit tons of damage. The game is probably going to trend in a slower direction to the point where you really can have your DPS just carry the game. And I don't know whether Philly are going to be able to do that.
Interesting. That's an interesting point. You talk the talk. Now it's time to walk the walk, because we're about to build our bracket.
Okay.
We're going to go through each team right now together.
Who delivered you Starbucks?
Deborah.
Oh,
nice.
Thank you,
what
Deborah.
service do you use?
Thank you, Deborah. I use
T-Mobile.
Postmates. It's too late now, actually. I tell you what, I was going to mention this, but I figured it was a little bit too off topic, but I ordered 2 minutes before close, so they probably fucking hate my guts.
Hugo could use a coffee, and Hazel is sleepy.
It's
Yeah,
not like cooking
that's
a
what I mean.
meal. Like, you just do some coffee.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working at Tesco's, selling mobile phones, I used to just despise it when customers came in right as I was about to close.
Right. I thought you were going to end the sentence there.
I mean, I did despise it, But I also despise that when you're literally closing up the shop, you're getting out all the stuff to just lock everything away, and
Hugo's falling asleep and almost slid off the chair.
But anyway, yeah, let's do the grand finals bracket predictions then, starting with some of these teams as well, because this is quite interesting. What do we think is? I mean, this should be pretty self-explanatory, I think, but. You want to make it
There's no bracket builder, I'm afraid, Kurt. Are you able to screenshot it and put it into Paint? I think that would be fitting levels.
I think Kurt should draw the logos in Paint right now, and we'll see if he can remember them off the top of his
the logos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Costa couldn't do that, and he was on the Valiant for 2 years.
Yeah. Bren didn't know Krong was in the league.
I mean, that's just not true. He's making shit up. Absolutely did though.
Bren doesn't defend himself from the most ridiculous shit sometimes. It's just I feel bad for you, honestly. I'm sorry, Bren.
I do get bullied a lot. I've noticed some sympathy from people. People come into my chat all the time when I'm streaming. They're like, "Why is Matt so mean to you all the time? Why does everybody
Everybody's mean to me."
I send you like a loving message every month, checking up on you, Bren.
Yeah, Johnny does actually.
Johnny wrote me a big birthday paragraph the other day.
Because I care about you guys. You're my friends, and I care.
I just responded, "Fuck you."
I've legitimately started reaching out to other people, like, "Hey, do you want to be friends? I need new ones."
Oh, we're good, dude. See, like.
What did I message you for your birthday, Matt?
No, okay,
that's a bit different. A bit different.
Too far.
Matt, what did I message you for your birthday?
I don't even know if he did.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
Josh slept through it.
It's probably.
Oh, I did happy, then a.
You sent me a billion emojis.
Cake emoji, present emoji, balloon emoji, party popper emoji, candle emoji, cake slice emoji, and then repeated that about 50 times. And then I put birthday, happy birthday.
It's weird. I kind of hate getting messages for my birthday.
Yeah, because you got to respond to everyone, right? You feel like you have to.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, oh, yeah, everybody cares it's my birthday, but then I'm like, I just want to do my thing, you know?
Know what I mean?
I didn't send you a message, Matt, because I care about you every day of the year. I don't need to make a song and dance about your birthday, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
What I don't like.
Me and Josh get each other. Me and Josh will never admit that we're somewhat friends or we even like each other, even a smidge, which we may not. But we respect each other though, and I respect his face.
I don't like.
I mean, I love that you respect me. I can't say it's particularly mirrored though.
And you know what?
I don't.
Okay.
You bald bitch.
Yeah.
I have more hair on this side of my face than you have on your body.
Well, you don't know.
You should see downstairs.
I do know.
What? That was the worst joke of all time. What? Can we talk about the fucking game?
Prove it.
Talk about Overwatch.
Prove it.
What's going on?
What happened to our bracket?
Bren, move along. The show.
No,
go.
I was going to say something. I've completely forgotten what it was. Oh, wow. You got it in paint.
Right.
All right,
wow.
there we go.
Oh,
so
Kurt
nice.
put the bracket in. Dude.
He's a genius.
Kurt should win Producer of the Year.
Yeah, Producer of the Year.
That needs to be a Producer of the Year award.
Esports Awards has all these different production companies. Ours should just say Kurt. It shouldn't even say Plat Chat. It should just say Kurt.
If I win this year, Kurt, I'll definitely shout you out.
You'll be waiting a long time for that victory, Kurt.
That's so rude to Johnny.
What?
Hey, you need to settle down.
No, I meant like me. I won't win. Johnny might.
Yeah.
Matt's actually a little shit. He gets one birthday message. Goes off the rails, doesn't he? Anyway,
I'm not going to wish Matt happy birthday for another year.
Soul versus Shock. Let's move this along.
When it's your birthday, Johnny, I'm going to send you something.
It's 10:20. I'm about to finish. Well, I'm not going to finish. I've just started a coffee. But
I thought you were about to scream, "I'm drunk." I was like,
"That's vodka in the coffee." What are we doing? Let's predict the
bracket on the screen.
Literally on the screen. All right, Soul versus San Francisco Shock. What do we think the scoreline of this one's going to be? I think everyone here thinks Shock. What do we suspect?
These are 3-map sets, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's BO5, presumably.
Yeah.
3-1.
I think this is 3-1.
3-1?
Yeah, 3-1 or 3-0. Johnny, what do you want to say about Soul? You want to say something nice?
Hear me out.
Oh, stop.
Whoa, you want to predict Soul?
I'm already done hearing you out.
In August, of 2020, I did my Overwatch League bracket. It's intact. And in it, I put the Seoul Dynasty to beat the San Francisco Shock in the first round of the 2020 Overwatch League playoffs.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
And well, this is where it goes wrong then.
Yeah. Well, now you're wrong.
I gotta. Okay, the logical conclusion is obviously the San Francisco Shock. I don't know why I'm playing this up, but I'm going to go with Seoul Dynasty because my bracket is still intact. The bracket that I made based on no knowledge whatsoever. We've got way more information, clues about who will win the championship. Yeah. I'm going to ignore all of that, and I'm just going to go with my bracket that's outdated.
He also said you were going to pick Kurt a perfect bracket, too. That turned out good.
All right. Yeah. Let's... So 3-1 Shock.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. All right. Nice scoreline that we got there. Shanghai Dragons versus Philadelphia Fusion.
This is a 3-1 or a game 5. Either way, I think this is a long series.
This is where me and Sideshow have to defend the Shanghai Dragons and remind Bren and Matt how good they actually were this season.
I think this will be 3-2 Shanghai.
I am so puzzled.
I think
as to what
Philly could. I think Philly brings this out in like a 3-2, 3-1 game. But I also think Philly wins the whole thing.
See, the thing is as well, so much of these series, it's not something that gets talked about too much, but if you're the better team at control, you have a great chance of being able to win these BO5 series, BO7 series even as well. And I think Philly's Sombra Reaper comp is... the only maps where I can see them being played still are the control maps. Yeah. And I think they could still find enormous value out of them there. They're small, they're condensed.
3-0 Philly
long range. No, but
3-2 Philly.
See, I completely agree with Sideshow, and that was what I had in my mind as well. I think, though, if they lose control, it's going to be very hard for them to
come to the dark side
of me. They have to win control.
Bro,
I would say Shanghai Dragons like 3-1.
I'll swap sides.
What side are you even swapping to? I didn't know what side you started on.
3-2 Shanghai, the 3-2 Philly.
Yeah, I can get on board with this. The thing is, even though I've said that Shanghai are my favorites to win, if you just ask me, like, what is your percentage chance you think a team has of winning? When it comes to the actual matches themselves, Shanghai, I don't think have looked that good recently. So I'm just like, I'm banking on them just being better.
Do we know what is the map pool?
The map pool is the same probably as the previous playoffs. I think.
I'll say so. All the control maps are in. I mean, Philly's got a 73% control win rate.
Yeah, I'm going for Philly here. I think this is a 3-2 Philly win.
What?
Holy moly! Johnny's been superseded.
I'm having an aneurysm.
Because Shanghai, I think, are a really good team over the course of this year. But if you just look at the evidence of what they've done in the playoffs so far, you wouldn't be that impressed with them. So what? You're just banking on the fact that they'll get a lot better. Well, I think that's true, but I think Philly will also get better.
I don't think Philadelphia Fusion has been that impressive in the playoffs so far. I think they actually got an easy road to the playoffs so far. They played a ton of Sombra Reaper compositions that don't matter shit anymore in the actual Final Four. I think they had easy matchups against the Valiant and the Gladiators, and then they just counter-strided the Washington Justice. And against the Shock, they kind of fell flat and weren't as impressive as we thought they would be. Because their damage just couldn't live up to it.
But jumping in, Matt, before I know I'm supposed to be the host here, but fuck you. Just want to say... You just brushed over counter-stratting the Washington Justice like it was just a small bump in the road.
They know exactly what the Justice were doing. They knew exactly. They had every detail. They had so much gameplay, and they counter-stratted them. That's not the same as going up against the freaking Shanghai Dragons.
I'm tilted. Because you're actually underplaying it so much. We made this argument all the way up to their loss for the Washington Justice. And the entire point we were making was, they're just counter-stratting them. We're just counter-stratting them. They've got so much game tape. There's no way they fall over. And every time we said that about a team, they fell over against the Justice comp. I think Philly played...
It's different skill sets.
Now, mind you, these are the...
so well against Washington. You can't just brush... Whatever.
Yeah.
No, I'm not brushing it over. I'm brushing over the Valiant and the Gladiators wins because they were mainly reliant on the Sombra Reaper composition. I'm not brushing over the Justice win, but I do think that they are different skill sets.
Yeah.
It is massively
different and on the fly adapting to your opponent and bringing a peak composition.
But Philly have been great at adapting on the fly to their opponents throughout this year, though, as well. Like in the regular season,
they literally did that in the which game was it? It got them to the finals, so they put in Hisu and Ivy, and they started playing that dive.
I think Philly have to win both control maps to win 3-2, though.
Now, mind you, both of these teams are tied for the most 3-0s in the league this season. 16 3-0 victories.
I mean, the way this is
like somebody could come out and just dominate.
It's not up for debate anymore.
If Philly wins this game, I'll eat a Philly cheesesteak on the next show.
Shanghai also went
to... not a punishment. Those are really nice.
I just wanted to do it, so I'll just put it out there.
Shanghai went to the 3rd most Game 5s in the entire league this year.
Yep.
And then 9. They got taken a Game 5 9 times. Does it change
our scoreline though, Matt? Because it's 3-1 that Philly move forward here.
Right? Yeah. No, I think Philly.
I am
3-2.
All right.
Yeah.
I think this is really close. I think this will decide a lot about the playoffs.
Yes.
This match is so important.
That match will decide who you have in your finals, pretty much, I think.
Possibly.
Oh, my Lord. This is going to be epic.
Now, I feel, do we want to do loser bracket next?
Sure.
Yep.
I think it's a fast and painless conversation.
I think this will be a nice and easy.
Yeah, I think this one is Seoul Dynasty, get your 4th place graphics ready for social.
I think this is another 3-1. I mean, Shanghai, they beat them 3-2 recently. Seoul are still obviously competent, but
I'd love to be wrong about this because Gesture's my boy, but
I think Seoul would have a better chance of winning round 1 than losing and facing like a Dragons or Philly here and winning.
I can't believe our bracket broke in the second match.
I can.
It's just ruined everything.
You seen our other brackets?
True, that was the first match. Progress.
All right, so Shock versus Philly.
Oh, okay. I think Shock win this one. I think it's going to be a pretty similar situation to before, where basically Ants and Striker are just going to be able to outcompete whatever the Philly Fusion can throw at them.
See, I don't really see how they
beat them.
I think it's different. I think that the Fusion are prepared for this matchup. If they beat the Shanghai Dragons, they would have looked at that matchup, improved on their mistakes, and actually game planned for what they would do against San Francisco Shock. I think it's the opposite.
That's what it is. The hardest part.
Let me give you this.
You go.
What teams do you think the Philadelphia Fusion are scrimming against?
I mean, if they're playing anybody in this bracket, it's Seoul, but even then, they're probably not.
But do you think they'll play against Shock? How many teams have access to the tournament client that's still on this old patch?
I have no idea what the answer to that question is.
Don't know how they're scrimming.
Yeah.
Don't know if they've been able to.
But
give
there's a possibility that they are scrimming. They have been scrimming against Shock.
I think it's very unlikely that they've been actively scrimming against Shock. I think it's much more likely, though I don't know about the logistics, but I think it's much more likely that Owl has whitelisted certain Korean contenders teams, or they've got an agreement with the Guangzhou Chargers players or something, because they know some of the former Philly guys, and they've put together a team that they frequently scrim
kind
against.
of bastard Frankenstein team of a few players or something like that.
I think that's much more likely than the top 4 teams actually scrimming against each other.
My oddest, I want to say Philly, because I have Philly in the finals. I have Philly winning it. But I also find it almost unimaginable that the Shock could lose twice in a row. I can almost never see a scenario. Maybe it's just kind of and not even favoritism, but just of how recently they've been so good. Them losing to Philly and then losing to the Dragons. I don't know.
My argument for Shock winning over this match here is let's assume that the top 4 are not scrimming against each other whatsoever. I know for a fact from Krusty's coaching style that he instills this idea of adapting on the fly. He wants the players to be able to go into a match, and whatever is thrown at them, the players should be able to sufficiently come up with a solution to it in the match without input from the coaches. He's very much based around that, about like training up the fundamentals, right? Agree or disagree?
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So much of that is going to be important in these Final Fours because of how little information people have over these teams, presumably, given that it's been 3 weeks since they've last seen them play.
They gotta have info.
I think they're going to have some, but not a lot. And I think a lot of these matches are going to be coming down to how much are they going to be able to read on the fly. I mean, obviously they're going to have game tape from the day before, but I think the Shock should have the advantage here against Philly in this match.
I agree for reasons that I've stated previously as well. I mean, outside of as long as the Shock can put together a competent tank line, I think they've got the best DPS line for this meta that any of the teams are boasting, and they've got Violet in the backline playing Zen.
Comments. Just remember when I said Philly and Shanghai have been in the finals.
I think Shock wins this one.
Yeah,
Shock.
Yeah, but because you just predicted them against the Shanghai Dragons in the first match. Like, of course they're going to go.
Well, okay then. If you thought Shanghai were going to make it through, what did you think about the Shock Shanghai match that we would have seen?
The Shock Shanghai?
Yeah, like Shanghai won. So you believed that Shanghai was going to make it through to this upper bracket final. So who did you have winning there? What did you think the story of that match would be?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Shock obviously are going to be very reliant on their DPS duo, but I do think that Shanghai Dragons generally have adapted better throughout the season. I'm not saying that they don't adapt to San Francisco Shock. I think what Brent said is true, and I agree with it, but I do think that this season they have shown some questionable hero picks at times where they have relied a bit too much, perhaps, on Striker's Tracer to like push them across the finish line. And I do think that Shanghai Dragons, I think Shanghai Dragons are like the best team of the four here. So I have them going to the upper bracket finals and then advancing. I also think that even though I made the case for the Fusion, I think that Shock has the more analysis-based, objective, favorite chance to win this matchup per se. So I'm not going to go out of my way to argue that I think that the Fusion will win this matchup, because I think it's based on not a lot of like very lofty stuff, not a lot of like evidence-based things. So I think Shock should be the favorites in this matchup.
This is also something.
I think it's a 3-2,
3-2, 3-1. Yeah. It's also crazy because I mean we didn't really even talk about it on the episode, but this is like the culmination of the regions versus each other, right? Like we've been kind of arguing back and forth for months now, like what's better, APAC, NA. I think some of the season, like APAC has definitely looked better, and then a lot of the season, I think towards more of the later half, I've kind of been more towards the NA side of things. But
I would love to hear what like other people think. So if people are discussing like in the comments on YouTube or the comments on the Reddit thread, like I would love to just hear like what other people's perspective are, because it's been so long since we saw actual Overwatch League matches that I think that people have very widely different perspectives on team strength and how these matches will play out. I just love to read more conversation about what people think, because it seems like we also have very different opinions on some of these.
Yeah. If you want to let Bren know a comment, if you give him money in his Twitch chat, he'll read it. Otherwise, he just donut wall survey.
But you know what Tywin Lannister always said, Matt?
No.
I mean, you do, because you literally the only form of media you've consumed in the last 5 years is Game of Thrones, so you do know what Tywin Lannister always said. He says that a lion not concern himself with the opinions of sheep.
What? Did that start with him? No, surely not. That's an age-old quote.
Tywin Lannister was also brutally murdered by a child, but yeah.
Spoilers to anyone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones.
I mean, look, you've had a lot of time in quarantine. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones yet, that's your problem.
Yeah. There's going to be 1 or 2 people out there. Unlucky.
Kurt, hold your ears.
All right. Philly versus Shanghai here. I'm struggling to...
The run back.
...think here. Yeah, because, like, it was already a bit of... We were already so split, actually, with Fusion versus Shanghai the first round here that we predicted. So... do we think it's going to be any different? Like, I don't know. Is it wishful thinking that Shanghai beat them?
Is it really odd with 4 teams is you're going to have a high likelihood of a rematch here in a loser final? you would. I mean, maybe it's just with these 4 teams. I think the way we would kind of predict it.
I mean, that's not necessarily true though, because if Shanghai had made it through the first round and we had a shock Shanghai upper bracket final, then
true, you would have gotten like
you would have got
true.
Yeah,
so, I was going to talk about this match. Did you have anything else to say?
No.
You know how angry it would be for people if we picked Philly.
This would be where I think the strength of Philly counter-stratting really comes in handy. Like, this is where what they showed against the Justice enabled to like pick up new compositions and like come in with a game plan and really execute. This is where I think that this would be like the matchup where that really comes into play, because now the Shanghai Dragons have played a few matches, you know generally what they like to do, their strengths, their tendencies, and now you're being able to adapt to that, and that's what I think Philly generally will grow stronger as a team. I don't think they'll be weaker in this match than the one previously.
Let me float this to the group. What if, let's say all these teams, they play through the playoffs, they beat up, I mean, look, everybody made the playoffs this year. There are a lot of, some of those matches were good, some of them they weren't.
What is the point you're getting to here?
What if they go down to Korea, everybody's there, they start scrimming, some weird shit happens, and some completely new comp has been formed? Who would you think out of the 4 teams could pick it up the fastest?
Soul.
Get what?
Soul? It's a bit of a wild card pick, Bren.
Dead into the camera and said Soul.
I like it. It's a bit of a wild card pick. I love it.
Yeah.
I think Soul would be the first to jump on it.
If there was a new comp that was taking teams by storm, you bet your fucking ass that Soul is taking advantage of that, because it's the only advantage they've got over the rest of the teams.
Yeah, but who could hit that comp's peak in the shortest amount of time?
Philly. I think it would be Philly.
I think it would be Philly.
We've seen them do it before. They've just like played compositions that they've never practiced before and looked really cohesive because their individual talent is super high. I think it would be Philly if it was, but then that doesn't really take into account the fact that in this lower bracket final, we've already seen days of competition. So the other teams
one day.
This wouldn't all
think.
Is this all only over one day?
You've seen.
We would see. This would be day 2.
This would be like the end of day 2.
This is day 2, but there's only been one other match played before this, and it's the upper bracket final.
But they've seen 3 matches the day before.
So wait, the first day you would see the winners bracket and then the first losers match?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
No, I think he may be right.
We worked this event in 2 days, by the way.
Yeah. No, he's right.
We go based on our calendars.
Because there's 3 matches, and then 1 match. So.
No, it's 2 matches, 3 matches.
1 match.
1 match.
Really?
I mean, the grand finals on a standalone.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh no, yeah. I was right originally. I was on it. So.
Yep.
The team that would win losers round 1 would then sit around, get to watch winners finals, and then get to play.
Wait, so it's the losers finals after the winners finals?
How do you do the losers finals before the winners finals?
No, sorry, I meant the first match of losers bracket is played before.
Yes, you probably would, because you wouldn't give that team you wouldn't give them a back-to-back. So you would probably have them kick the day off, then winners match, and then the losers match. So whoever loses that match up top is going to be pretty warm going up against a team who hadn't played in like 4 hours potentially.
I mean, warm, but also have done very little specific prep. There's definitely pros and cons to playing back to back. Everyone always argues this every time some team has to play back to back. They're like, "Oh, we're warm. Oh, but we were tired. Oh, we got no time to scrim, but we're already warm."
But
like some personal preference, right?
It's not best of 7s. These are best of 5s. So I think that's easier.
Sure,
than
but I don't know. I feel like if Fusion won the first time, my like love of narrative wants Shanghai to win so that we get shock Shanghai. But I do agree with Jonathan in that if Philly were able to squeak a win the first time around, I think Philly would get better faster than Shanghai would. So we're in this uncomfortable position of making Philly knock out Shanghai twice
again. Yeah,
the bracket that we've made.
I'm gonna take a lesson from Matt as well. Like, if I ever need to come up with like an argument for that goes in favor of a team, I'll just preface the argument with some wild shit happens and then make my point.
Well, dude, you could totally see that happen because
if some wild shit was gonna happen,
you could totally see that happen because the good teams weren't playing like the 24/7 hog, right?
So what are we thinking?
Once they started playing it 24/7 and you start mixing around with like Diva, Zarya, Sigma, like who the fuck knows what happened?
Yeah, I think that is possible.
What are we thinking? Let's lock this in.
Philly 3-0.
No, not 3-0. I can't believe that we've got the Shanghai Dragons going out here twice to Philly. Even though
the
0-40 Dragons go out.
Can we go back and undo and put Shanghai 3-2 win over Philly? Fuck.
Please.
No, I don't want to. What's done?
I don't want to be associated with this bracket.
I know this bracket looks so wrong.
Be good.
This bracket does look scuffed as fuck.
Yeah, fuck this bracket,
bro. What? Dude, 3-2 Philly. 3-2.
This bracket was made by North American casters who just eliminated the Korean teams from the APAC region straight away and got to a shock Philly final.
I had Shanghai winning the entire thing,
and then I just talked you down.
And then you boomed me.
Yeah,
I can't believe you've done this.
I had Shanghai winning the whole thing.
If some kind of oddball meta occurred within those 2 weeks, Shanghai is probably in a decent amount of trouble.
But it's speculation.
I don't think they're in trouble. Shanghai are Shanghai are the most flexible team in terms of what they've demonstrated so far. You know, like Shock are really good at the Zen Mercy kind of comps. Philly are really good at the Sombra Reaper. Shanghai have played all three styles, like the Hog. They've played a bit of the Sombra stuff. They've played a bit of the long range pokey kind of stuff as well. But Philly are just so fast at picking up new things.
It is a good sign that we are so indecisive with who we think is going to win the whole thing. I think.
I hate the fact that we've got Shanghai going out here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sit right with me either. But I think it's quite nice that we've kind of come to these weird conclusions together, and our answers for these questions are also quite different.
We're in it to the end.
Yeah. What is the result then for Shock Fusion?
4-0.
Oh my God, we're actually doing it.
4-0.
We're actually doing it.
4-0 victory for the Shock. Our grand finals have always been terrible. This one's going to be the same. It's going to be the most hype grand finals ever. It's a rematch. It's insane. Are Philly going to be able to win? And they're just going to crumble and lose.
This is the finals that was promised. It's going to go all the way down to the wire, like Bren said, dude. All the way down. Game 7. Philly does it, dude. They complete the storyline.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that?
I just predicted it.
That would that would be insane. Oh my God.
Johnny even agrees.
Fucking Philly simps.
Johnny agrees.
I think
awards, if you're watching, please don't disqualify me.
Johnny, who are you going with here?
I'm not going with any of them.
So I'm the deciding factor.
You gotta pick.
I'm taking.
Honestly, you have made significantly worse predictions than either of these things that you could pick.
I'm a new person.
So I am the decider.
Making it to the finals through the upper bracket, and we've got them losing.
Okay. I'll think about it. I'll think about it for a little bit. You guys say what you think.
So I'm not the decider.
Well, what do you think, Bren? You have to voice an opinion now instead of just picking from one of ours.
4-2.
4-2 to who?
Who?
Give you one guess.
Philly.
You're a fusion simp.
No,
he's a shock simp.
Shock.
He's both. Oh,
yeah,
okay. Wow. Yeah, I think a 4-2 is quite reasonable.
The trouble is, the longer you get into these predictions, the less information you're going off of, and you're basically going off of a bunch of presumptions. Yeah, and it's like it is just presumptions, and also, I mean, because anything could happen. It's 3 days of competition.
It becomes predicting WWE.
Yeah,
if Shock make it to the finals, they're probably going to win.
Yeah, 4-2 for Shock over Fusion is my guess.
We got the Fusion beating Shanghai Dragons twice, and then losing to the Shock.
Well, they've already lost to the Shock, according to us.
Fucking hell.
We also have the Fusion playing 3 Game 5 series before
this bracket
ignoring the entire bracket, just focusing on this matchup. I'll get behind the Shock 4-2 pick.
This bracket is a
the previous
travesty.
results and everything, and just
God, I would feel horrible. I feel horrible for Philly. If you guys are all gonna pick the Shock, let's put the Dragons there, and then let the Dragons let the Dragons lose to the Shock.
No, we can't just go back and retcon the predictions from earlier because it makes a better story.
This sounds like
doesn't
Matt
make a better
writing
story,
the
but
Overwatch
like,
League script. Like, this is what he does on a weekly basis with John Spector in a call.
I wrote it the first year.
I love this bracket.
There it is. Yes.
Dude, there it is.
Do this.
That's
Kurt's
the official bracket.
Yep, that's what we're posting.
We are so... Fuck it. Just send it in.
Send it in. It's like the school project, like 2 hours before.
Just send it in.
Yeah,
4-5.
Yeah,
4-5.
No one wins. Yeah, I like that.
I know what he's got. Honestly, if you listen to anybody out there who tells you they know who's going to win this thing and why, they're full of shit. Because nobody knows. Nobody's seen these teams in weeks. They're on a patch that's like 3 patches too old now. Who the hell knows who they're scrimming? We don't get any info. At this point, you're picking off of what we saw like a month ago.
Yeah.
We'll probably have a good idea who's going to win the first day we see them play.
Yeah.
And what the meta is and what they're playing. And I think judging off of that, you'll know. But I mean, going off of that, it's just almost impossible.
It really is.
I'm moving us on because it's 11 p.m. and Kurt needs to sleep. So
watch ads for Kurt.
What?
Watch ads for Kurt.
No, instead watch Kurt, this. Bren's Player of the Week presented by T-Mobile.
Can you save that picture, Kurt? We need to post it on social media and let the people know.
Hey, yo, welcome to Bren's Player of the Week. Presented by T-Mobile. All right.
I've become very good at lip reading because of Bren's play.
Yeah, what did I just say?
I think you said bombadoo, bombadoo, bombadoo. Bren's Player of the Week. Presented by T-Mobile.
Is that what he said?
No. Don't know. Oh. What did you say?
What did you say?
It is funny that you guys can't hear the audio for it. I said, whoopee, woo, 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 woo. My Player of the Week this week, presented by T-Mobile, is... For the first time in many, many, many weeks, an actual player. It is Linkzr.
Hey.
There he is.
Hey,
on your roster?
Mr. Jiri, huh?
He wasn't here that week.
He's my Player of the Week. Here he is.
That's phenomenal.
For winning the Widowmaker 1v1, for retiring the Bridowmaker, and for swearing twice on broadcast and somehow dodging the fines. Unbelievable.
And he played Among Us last night with us. And
he did play Among Us.
I watched him. I watched him literally walk up to somebody and cut them in half. And then I reported it. And then he was like, "No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me."
He's very good at Among Us. I don't want to play with him anymore.
Why?
It's because it's not fun to play with people who are very good at Among Us,
isn't it?
Does he
just enjoy slaughtering Timmies? In that game?
No, because I'm not very good at it either. I like to just report random people, to be honest. But we were playing with some people, and they're stood at the admin table watching for people to complete the common tasks of a specific map. Like, there's a point where you gain so much knowledge of the game that it just doesn't become fun to play with those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think? What do you think the best moment of the weekend was for Linkzr? Swearing on broadcast and getting away with it, winning the Widow 1v1, or sacrificing the Brenji, the Bridowmaker, whatever it's called.
I think it was probably telling Dante he needs to get a cup of shut the fuck up. I mean, that was such a it wasn't just that he swore. He didn't just go like, "Oh, I did really fucking well." It wasn't something boring. He told Dante he needed to get a cup of shut the fuck up. I mean, that is so gangster. It's amazing.
When I heard him say it, I was like, "Oh."
Frankie's face. Frankie was like, "Oh."
That's great.
I also think we could have given the Bren's play. I would have been okay if the Bridowmaker would have been the Player of the Week, because the Bridowmaker just had so many issues. It was like, You ever see that one clip from WWE where the guy falls through the wall with his entrance?
No.
You never seen that?
Sounds amazing.
Oh my god, hold on, I'm gonna play it. I'll send it to Kurt. But like Bren, like he comes in, it's a horrible job interrupting this interview. He gets absolutely annihilated, and then he can't figure out how to get the audio and the call to work after.
That wasn't even on my fucking end.
Seeing him go like this, he's just like.
I love the miming you were doing.
I hated it. I hated it.
It was just
the Brittlemaker character went out like that. Like this is why we just listen. I'm not gonna follow through with any challenges or shit like this until the execution's right, because God.
Yeah, the Shockmaster. There it is, Kurt. This is what the Brittlemaker was like. It's essentially a bedazzled stormtrooper helmet.
What is this?
Yeah, go back. Play it back. He was doing this grand entrance. Yeah, he's doing this grand entrance, and he's supposed to be this mystery. And there he is. He falls through the wall. His helmet comes up. That is the Brittlemaker in a wrestler.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that his helmet fell off and he was just scrambling to preserve his identity.
I mean, his helmet is literally a bedazzled stormtrooper helmet. There it is. This is how the Brittlemaker came and went, just like the Shockmaster.
Yeah.
Who
was the Shockmaster?
Yeah, same physique as the Brittlemaker.
Who was the Shockmaster?
That's the only time he's ever fought. The only time he's ever fought was Sid Vicious. He was coming from another planet to help Sting, and I believe the British Bulldog. I think the British Bulldog was in that clip. But
what wrestling network?
Huh?
What wrestling network was it?
That was WWE.
That was WWE.
Yeah, that quality was WWE.
Now, you actually said some slander on the Brittlemaker earlier, though, Matt, because you said that when he interrupted the interview, he did a terrible job. I definitely don't think the Brittlemaker did a terrible job. Did you see Jaw's face? He genuinely feared for his life.
Yeah, the meme template.
The meme template's amazing. I've put it in the Discord chat for Kurt to pull up as well. It's such a good meme template. Like, Jaws looks like a tiny little boy in comparison to the bulk of the Brittlemaker.
Jaws should keep casting Overwatch. He should not try and quit to try and become an actor.
Jaws asked me. He said,
"Decision. Look at how big you are, and you don't even try and like push him. You just run at his chest and just stand there."
Because Jaws asked me. He said, "When you come on to interrupt me, let's grapple a little bit."
Grapple!
I did not see any grappling there whatsoever.
So I grabbed him. I grabbed him and just started shaking him, and then he just kind of rose.
like a fish. Like you picked up a fish and just shook him a little bit.
That is not a grapple from Jaws.
I love the picture where you pause it, the meme template, because you have such a wide Neanderthal neck from that exact image.
Yeah, it's 0.25 this.
0.25.
Joss is just like, okay, can I leave now? He's like, take the headset. So wait,
he's so much wider than he is.
Did Linkzr not have a clue about the Brittlemaker?
I don't know. I don't think they told him. I think they said, you got one more interview. We'll need like 15 more minutes from you.
Look at Linkzr's face. He's like, what the hell's going on? Because he probably doesn't have any clue.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
And then now he's like, I got an easy dub. Look at that. It's the Brittlemaker.
That's the moment where he realizes
he was probably scared they were going to make him play against Jaws.
Or Diem. Like some kind of, cross-region rivalry.
No, bro.
And instead he gets the Brittlemaker.
The thing is, every pro player I've played against has been petrified to play me.
Well, of course, because if you in the odd-on chance that you won, it would be horrible for them.
Yeah, it would. They'd lose their careers.
But I don't get why
Yaki lost his.
I mentioned it. I mentioned it in the 1v1. And I kind of said, I was like, this is ridiculous. Bren has been proven not to beat professional players in 1v1s. And we have Joshua, Uncle Egg, the Yaki Destroyer, Wilkinson here, who's undefeated against professionals in one-on-one play.
Undefeated?
And we don't give him a chance.
Fuck off, undefeated. How many kills did you get in your 1v1?
No, he won the competition. He won the competition.
He won. How many kills did you get against Yaki?
He won.
I got 5 kills.
And how many did he get?
To win.
How many did he get? Not enough.
Exactly.
He didn't get enough kills to win.
He got more kills against Yaki in that 1v1 than you have over the course of the Gesture, Baby Bay, and Linkzr 1v1s combined.
No, not true.
That's true.
That actually might be true, isn't it?
No,
you got 1 in the Gesture one, like
2 against.
You didn't get 4 against Gesture. You got 2.
Get 4 against Gesture.
You got 2 against Gesture.
There's not a
cut the clip. Cut it.
There's not a chance.
End the cut. End it now.
You got